Hello and welcome to the MinnMax Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Jeff Marchiafava,
Hey.
Kyle Hilliard,
Hi.
and Ana Diaz.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank
New
you.
voice to the show. Thank you so much for
Thanks.
joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, absolutely. Friend of the show, Ava from Glitch. I was talking to her a while ago, and I was like, do you know any voices that you'd recommend for being on the MinnMax Show podcast at some point? And she didn't let me finish the sentence. She said, Ana, get on it. You're helping out with Glitch in some ways now?
Yeah, so I announced yesterday officially I am a producer there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So making some nebulous, maybe podcastable content in the future.
Yeah, so it's all unannounced for now, but it'll be gaming content, and I'm super stoked to be there. They're a great community, and they love video games. So.
Yeah, they're so sweet. And so they're the publisher of Hyperdot, friends of the show, Hyperdot.
Right.
We're supporting this month and stuff. We actually streamed it for the Great Cody Hunt if you want to find out what it actually looks like. Because God bless the $10 supporters on Patreon that choose what we stream every week. They went with Dark Crystal Age of Resistance tactics. And it's like, all right, we're doing what the people want. And we tried it for a while, and then Jeff he could not survive the Age of Resistance. And
Really?
So then we just
I mean,
switched
you
over.
like that genre, though, right?
It
but
was
just wasn't
not.
clicking
We
with
don't
you.
need to talk about it. It was
You
not
can
going
find the
well.
archive of Jeff beating his head against the wall.
Oh, you
over
should have
there.
deleted that.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
Ana, also in your history, Twin Cities Geek, which I follow on Twitter. I feel like a lot of people in the Twin
Yeah.
Cities, it'll bubble up. You wrote for them, but then also Polygon as well.
Yep. Yeah, I just finished, or not just now, but I was there for a summer as an editorial intern, so I was full-time in their newsroom in New York.
Yeah. Not like the best person, but you have a favorite person to work with over there?
And worst. Let's go ahead and get that
Let's
in
get the
there,
full
too.
Polygon dirt here.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was a really meaningful experience because I got to work with writers whose reporting I've been reading for a long time. So it was really great to work with Patricia Hernandez. Also, shout out to my friends Petrana and Palmer, who, are also great young reporters in games and entertainment.
Awesome. So what's your history with Minnesota? And it's not a requirement to be on the MinnMax Show podcast, but it's cool that you have some connection that you came back from New York to Minnesota, but did you grow up here?
Yeah, so I lived here for 6 years as a child in central Minnesota in a town of 1,200 people.
Which
called
town?
Avon.
Avon, I don't know it. I'm sorry.
It's most known for the Wobegon Trail. Garrison Keillor based the show off of it.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But it's a beautiful place.
Okay.
And I also have extended family here. I went to college here and just like it generally here.
Yeah.
So came back.
Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet. Well, thanks for swinging by the cold, dark basement. It seems okay now. I promise the temperature will plummet in this room. And so, we're all going to be great. Also, Chrono Trigger. The game club goes on. This is the deepest dive on Chrono Trigger. Jeffem, you are wincing like you haven't gone through the ending at this point.
I've been playing every day.
Is there a lot to go through still?
I don't know. That's the thing.
So-
the third section is pretty bloated.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay, so we tried breaking it up into 3 perfectly evened out sections.
And we failed.
Well, that's fine. So it's going to be on February 12th is we're going to be posting our final discussion for Chrono Trigger, which covers everything in the game from the Kingdom of Zeal through the potentially multiple endings of Chrono Trigger. And on the 10th, then, February 10th is when we'll have the post on Patreon saying, hey, please leave your comment with very specific insight there. So if you're playing along with us, please look out for that post on February 10th, and then we'll have that standalone thing. It'll be on the YouTube channel, and then the audio version will be available for $5 supporters as well, the Patreon. But it is the deepest dive into Chrono Trigger, and we've been having a good time with it so far. I can't imagine we'll talk about Chrono Trigger today. This is a special episode where we're going to talk about the Super Nintendo. We're going to run through our top 5 favorite Super Nintendo games of all time. Jeff, I'm very curious about you because you seem like the most classical gamer in the room.
That's the way of just saying old, right?
Yeah, old and boring and stale. Yeah, I want to see what you choose. We're going to go around the room in a little bit and list our 5 favorites. Other things, though, Final Fantasy VII update.
I'm familiar with
As always. The remake just released that new trailer last week. I posted a reaction video. If you want to see that, you can find it on our YouTube channel and stuff. That trailer is wild. It's like the most they've revealed in a trailer since like the big re-unveiling of the project.
The most English voice acting at this point, probably?
Probably. And that
Yeah.
still remains like the thing that I'm most concerned about is just some of that
It's
dialogue.
underwhelming,
But then there's like moments of, what I love about 7 is just how goofy it can be, you know? And I feel like there are moments in that trailer where it's like, okay, I'm feeling better. Like seeing Scarlet like using somebody else from Shinra as like a footstool. It's like, okay, I'm glad that it has like some sense of humor and it's not just Advent Children. Ugh, what am I gonna do? Cloud. Like I want silly Final Fantasy VII to be packed in there in some way. And then also that Roach character, like the new guy, on the motorcycle. His line is also good. It's like, I don't know if it's the actor or just his dialogue, but in that trailer, it's like, okay, that guy might have some more personality than most.
And
here.
he's a brand new character?
He is brand new.
Oh, what
yeah.
a strange thing. Okay.
Well,
Was that the trailer with Cloud and like wearing the dress?
Yeah.
And, I only exclusively saw memes of that
Yeah.
circulating. Yeah.
He's
Even that's-
very stern. Like he looks
That's
really
what's
Yeah.
weird. He looks
uncomfortable.
like a doll. He just has that like blank stare as this guy's like, oh, beauty is on the inside, Cloud. He just will not have it. It's such a weird thing too, because it's like, I don't know how they handle that scene. It's basically showing everything now, but they're trying to spin it for being like, oh, gender doesn't matter. It's what the inside. It's beauty. But it's like, the entire point of that scene is like, ha, look at him. He's in the dress. And it seems like that's still in effect for the remake. So it's like,
I'll
very
see.
curious how they navigate that. Kyle, you wanted to talk
With a
about...
deft hand, I'm sure.
Oh, the classic Square Enix deft hand. You want to talk about some mobile game, Kyle? You would not leave this
sure.
room without talking about a mobile game?
Yeah, that thing I specifically told you we could not talk about if we got. But it's just so it's this free to play mobile game, and there's like flags that raise immediately where it's like there's microtransactions and it's free to play and you have to wait to play. There's all these things that are like reasons that you probably don't want to play, and that's fine. But it's called Stampede. And what it is, like, I just really like the core mechanic of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Pursuit Force for PSP?
No.
Okay. It was a launch title for the PSP, and the idea was, like, you would leap from car to car. Like, it was a third-person action game where you would drive and you would get close to a car, and then you could leap out of the car into the next car and take that over. It's kind of
Yeah.
like your beloved Driver San Francisco, but, like, instead of, like, being a spirit, you're actually a human character jumping from car to car.
Huh.
So the idea of the mobile game is like you're running through a stampede and you're riding an animal and you leap from animal to animal, and like as long as you like stay on the animal long enough, you can capture it and like build out this zoo. And I just
And you found this
build a
base-
zoo?
yeah.
So Zoo Tycoon,
you're
except
capturing-
stampeding.
Yeah, you're capturing animals to like grow out the zoo, but like the core mechanic, it's a one-handed vertical game, which is like all I want from mobile games is like, simple to play.
Right.
That mechanic of leaping from animal to animal is super fun and very cool, and it's a game that I'm returning to.
And you found
with
this based
frequency.
on IGN giving it a 9.8?
That's right. No, my daughter found it, who
Of course.
obsessively plays awful mobile games that I
Yeah.
constantly approve for her, and I'm like, you really want to play this? But this one, I watched her play over her shoulder, and I was like, that looks really cool. So that's like the weird way
then
that
you
I found
snatched
it.
the phone away
I
from
took
her.
her phone away from her and started playing it. So it's called Stampede, and I was impressed by it, and I like it.
When we make our list of 210s of the greatest games of 2020, will you bring up Stampede on iOS?
If it clicks in the way Grindstone did for me, I totally would be open for that.
That's a tall order, isn't it?
It's not there yet, but I'm just
Okay.
saying I'm open to it. Just
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
like a free-to-play mobile game doesn't mean it's like out of the running, is out of the stampede, if you will. So
Okay,
check
I'll
it
go
out.
with it.
Stampede.
Also, big news of the week. Very confusing reveal on Tuesday that Dan Houser is leaving Rockstar. And I think some of you might be saying, I don't know the name Dan Houser. That's because Rockstar has a veil of secrecy over the entire thing, and they don't like having public faces out there. But one of the founders of Rockstar, going through the entire saga, incredibly important to the overall design of Rockstar games, specifically the writing. Like, he's been writing on Rockstar games for so long now and has been a huge part of it. It's crazy to have somebody at the top of the company also theoretically getting in the weeds and doing so much writing on games up to Red Dead Redemption 2, which I would argue is probably one of the best written games of all time.
Yeah, I mean, it will change things there.
Right.
For sure. I mean, it might not be like immediately apparent, but like things are shifting there.
Yeah, and
Even
it's
though-
wild. Like,
yeah.
so Sam Houser is his brother, and he's still there. But the way this was revealed was through a financial reveal. It's like, oh, by the way, Dan Houser, he's been on leave since 2019 on vacation, and now he's going to be leaving for real in March. And so it's a
weird.
little bit like do you remember We Need the Benz? When Benzies left a couple years ago, that was also like, okay, it was extended leave, and then he was kind of pushed out of the company, and there was a
Oh,
lawsuit, the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
saga. And so this is one of those things like, okay, also the extended leave, and then also Dan Houser, of all people, is leaving. It's pretty wild. And
Yeah, is
you
it a
know,
retirement? Because he doesn't, I mean, I would speculate that he does not need to work if he doesn't want to.
I cannot
you know?
imagine.
As a founder of that studio.
No one knows. It's really just that one line of saying like, oh, thanks for his contributions throughout the years. Okay, bye. And, he's not going to do a big exit interview. It'd be awesome if he did.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of questions about what it means. I mean, there's also other writers involved throughout Rockstar in the years, so it's not a matter of like, it's going to be 100% a different voice. And I think Rockstar also has such a distinct vibe for the writing in their games, depending on what series it is, right? That like they have enough to work off of where I think they can move forward, and it won't be night and day. But it is a huge shift for Rockstar overall. So
yeah, I wonder if there's like if Dan sort of is more like the Red Dead guy, like if there's one franchise that he is like particularly involved in, like that stuff's never clear,
right?
Like,
what he prefers to be involved in, or
yeah, like maybe he
like
took
that.
the lead on Red Dead and his brother takes the lead on
I think
GTA
Hauser's
or
still pretty
something.
heavily involved with
Yeah.
GTA. But again,
I mean, I know they're both really involved, but it's kind of like the Coen brothers, right? Like one does the actor
Yeah.
directing, one does the camera directing.
and now one's going to split off and make his own Macbeth film.
Ooh,
Very exciting.
finally.
But yeah, it's like one of those things like, boy, it'd be nice to know exactly what's going on here. Please do more interviews, Rockstar. Please open up those doors and let us figure out what the hell is going on in there.
Yeah.
Kyle, you also insisted on talking about Zombie Army 4.
Yeah. You really don't want me to talk about things that I'm enjoying. And playing.
No. Yeah, how is this Zombie Army 4 game? I'm only
it's good.
hesitant because it's a game called Zombie Army 4.
The name sounds like if there was a sitcom where like
Yes.
a kid was like wanted to play a video game, it would be called Zombie Army 4 Dead War. You know what I mean?
Dead
Like
War!
that's what it's called. Yeah, that's
Okay.
like that's the game that Bart Simpson wants to play that his mom won't let him. But I mean, it's from the Sniper Elite guys. It's from
Okay.
that studio, but it is basically like a Left 4 Dead mixed with that sort of sniper gameplay, and I think
Yeah.
it works pretty well. Like, and there's also it distinguishes itself from Left 4 Dead, like by being third person, and then also like when you get a certain number of zombie kills, you can like rush into the crowd and like do an up close kill to regain health, and like so it like. I like it because it just keeps the action moving as you're sort of trying to make your way through, these like big hordes, and like you still get that like slow-mo sniper kills and stuff like that, which is like the Sniper Elite series is really known for.
So how does that work with multiplayer then?
So it'll start and then it like the game basically pauses for everyone. And the other players can skip it if they want.
Yeah.
Which when I was playing co-op, the person that I was playing with would constantly like skip it, and I'd be like, "Come on, man, I want to see my kill. What are you
It's going to
doing?"
look awesome.
But I reviewed it for IGN. I gave it a 7 out of 10. It's not. It doesn't feel like it does anything that Left 4 Dead or World War Z like hasn't already done, but it does
Yeah.
it well, and like the sort of health mechanic like makes it unique, and the story is like so ridiculous and stupid. Like they sort of lean into the absurdity of that name, and like
Yeah.
the ending was like made me laugh to a certain degree. So
Right.
I enjoyed it. If you like Left 4 Dead, if you like World War Z, like this is definitely like it is a like mechanically solid. Like it works well. Like the online works well. The game I did run into a few bugs, but they weren't like game breaking things. you
Sure.
know? So like if you like that genre, like this game surprised me. Like it was better
But
than
in
I
any
expected it to
world,
be.
is it really better than going back and just playing Left 4 Dead?
Well, it's different.
Yeah.
Like the sort of like the health mechanics of it and like the focus on sniping does make it feel a little different, which is
Yeah.
cool. And the levels are well designed. Like the sort of the path that you have to go through the levels are well done and stuff like that. So like it is worth playing. Like Left 4 Dead is still great. Left 4 Dead is still the best. And I think I actually would put World War Z slightly above Zombie Army 4 Dead War.
Right.
But like it's a total solid entry into that genre.
Okay.
So
Cool.
I would recommend it if you like that style of game. Because like also the other thing is Valve has pretty explicitly said like recently they were like we're not working on Left 4
Yeah,
Dead
we
3.
haven't for years, which
Yeah.
is really interesting that they
So-
would just come out and say that.
And then what's the Back for Blood? Is that the Turtle Rock one?
yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
So-
2K was publishing that one.
Yeah. So like until we learn more about that or find out what that is, they've said it's a spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead. Like
Yeah.
these kinds of games, the World War Z's and the Zombie Army 4, are gonna hold you over until that or Valve suddenly digs through their source code and says, "Oh yeah, we made Left 4 Dead 3. Let's see if we
Right.
can surface this thing."
So last week, I believe it was, Nintendo announced that the Nintendo Switch has surpassed the Super Nintendo in terms of sales, which seems wild. Like we think of that as being so huge. Just because we were dumb children, Jeffem? Is that the idea?
I think so, yeah.
Okay,
Mostly
yeah.
dumb children.
Yeah. So the Switch had the Super Nintendo had total sales of 49.1 million, and the Switch is now at 52.48 for the total, and still climbing. It's just bonkers. But we figured that combined with the Chrono Trigger Deepest Dive that's going on now, it's probably a good time to look back at the Super Nintendo. And then, lo and behold, Reggie Fils-Aimé former Nintendo president, he did like this podcast where he was also kind of talking about the Super Nintendo era a bit, but it was mainly just about like his overall career in business, and it's the Present Value podcast. But Kyle, you were talking about how fascinating it was, and so I finally went around and listened to it. Why was that so riveting? I'm not even a huge Reggie fan, but
I don't know. Like, are you guys familiar with this? Anna, did you hear about it? Or anything?
I saw it circulating, but I didn't click into it.
yeah,
I mean, maybe because like I was always eager to try to talk to him during my time at Game Informer. I was never able to, and like it answered like simple questions for me, which was like, does he actually like video games? Which is a question I always had for him. And like one of the big
hard-hitting journalist Kyle Hilliard.
Do you like video games?
I know he liked Nintendo and he was very good at his job, but I was always curious, like, in your free time, do you play video games? And in this interview he says, which was like one of the more interesting things to me, like when he one of the first system he owned, this was like before he was at Nintendo, was the Super Nintendo. And he owned 80 to 90 games.
This seems absurd.
That's what he says.
That's what he says. And then, like he said, then later I found out that research implied that most people had like an average of 5 to 6 games for Super Nintendo.
Six to
like,
eight,
I guess I was an outlier.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Did I buy too many of your games, Nintendo?
Am I rich?
I'm calling BS.
I mean, okay, 80
That's a lot.
90 is ridiculous, but like I do believe in the idea that he had like way more games than the average person, like maybe like 20 or something.
Did
like
he
that,
buy those though, like 5 years before he started working for Nintendo?
Oh,
or like
interesting.
right before he went into the interview, so he could say, "Hey, the first system I ever bought was Super Nintendo, and I had 90 games."
I brought my cartridge footstool with me. Let me just get comfortable here.
All of this can be taken with a grain of salt, but I mean, he's not, although he does still refer to like Nintendo as we and our developers in the interview, but like he owned like a PS2 and an N64. He skipped the GameCube.
Yeah, it's interesting. He talked about it when he was interviewing at Nintendo that he only had an Xbox and a PS2. He did not have a GameCube,
which was like telling to him, like so. I like you could totally look at that and be like, I don't know if he was much of a gamer, but I took it as like I think he actually did play games.
But in the same way that we're dying for more Rockstar developers to do long form interviews, I was thinking about like why is this so compelling? Like I've heard plenty of Reggie speeches and read plenty of interviews with him and stuff, but I've never heard him like in a relaxed long form podcast format. And it's like, turns out he is a smart guy, and you just feel like you get to know him so much more from that rhythm. And also, I think the interviewer a little stiff. It seemed a little like he definitely had those questions in advance and all that fun stuff, but like it was fascinating just because it made me angry about every other interview with Reggie where it's like, yeah, this interview was good because he was talking about things that he was passionate about, which is branding and marketing, and like business lessons.
Pizza from
and he
Pizza
talked about the Bigfoot pizza for a long time. But it's just like, it's nice to hear him more in his wheelhouse instead of having to dodge talking about the Virtual Console and the Switch for the 30th time. He could actually talk about like, here are my business lessons throughout my career that I'd like to apply and teach you about.
So you also found it compelling? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah,
because,
for sure.
Because all you said was, why was this so compelling to you, Kyle?
Oh, no. It was riveting. Okay. And I think there's something about his tone. And I was like, this is fascinating. And then I really thought about like, well, what's he saying? He's saying Breath of the Wild really changed up the formula for the Zelda series. He's saying very basic things most of the time.
Which is honestly another thing, like, because he did say more than that about Breath of the Wild. He talked about the mechanics of it and specifically why it was like different for Zelda, to the point where I was like, I mean, these are bullet points on like a press release for sure. But like, at least it made me think like he understands why that's interesting and probably played it. He said he played every Zelda game,
Yeah, that is true.
But
he had a couple interesting stories about how when he was first hired, he wanted to talk to Iwata, and he said that like Nintendo Japan was like, what's going on? Like they were a little bit put off by like, who's this weirdo that just was hired over in the American campus that wants to actually talk to Iwata?
It was actually before he was officially hired.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
Yeah, because he was like they were interviewing him and he requested to talk to Iwata for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And they talked for an hour and a half.
It's beautiful.
Because you got to like, we know how this works.
The translation.
Like interviewing Japanese people, you got to get the translation, so it always goes longer than you.
Yeah, but yeah, if you want to check it out, I really recommend it. If you're a Nintendo fan, I think it's worth listening to. He talks about like the evolution of the Nintendo logo and how when he first was brought on, like 2002, 2003, that they wanted to shake it up and make it look like graffiti and stuff. And he's like, you idiots, like stop trying to court the older audience. Like we're smart for making stuff like Brain Age, like even into like the development of Brain Age and just trying to court a different audience than where Xbox and PlayStation 2 were going.
He also said in one of Nintendo's main conference rooms in Kyoto, there's a plaque with kanji letters that say "Make something unique."
Yeah,
which is like Nintendo is so closed off about any insight of like what their offices look like. Like that is like in my mind picture of like what's happening in the Nintendo offices. Like that's now the only piece that I have. Like, all right, there's a plaque in a conference room that says make something unique.
It always cracked me up when...
And it sounds like he stole it on the way out, I think.
That's right. Yeah, he pried it off the wall with a crowbar. But no, like it always made me laugh when Nintendo on their YouTube channel, they have Nintendo Minute, Kid Ellis and I forget her name. But they're like, we're going to tour Nintendo's headquarters in Kyoto. And I was like, this is awesome. Then they post the video and it's like just them in the lobby where it's like, if Nintendo can't get access to Nintendo, like what the hell are we doing here? What chance do we have?
Yeah. But it's been really nice to sort of see him loosen up after leaving Nintendo. Like even he's been attending more events in New York. He was at the NYC Games Critics Association Award or the Games Journalism Award. And that's just something that is for journalists and writers and is well attended by kind of like more regular people. And he was there. And so it's been,
He's becoming a human being again.
Yeah, I guess he's just loosening up. He's like, I'm going to talk about marketing now.
Yeah.
He also did talk a little bit about like the meme culture surrounding him. I mean,
although
he
his
didn't have
description
a ton to say
of
about
like
it.
on the place where you download the memes, there are hundreds of me. It's like, what are you talking about, old man?
Hold on a second.
Let it go.
But it's you should check it out. I think it's like an hour. But it's like I was surprised. Like he worked for VH1 and MTV and Panda Express and stuff. Like,
anyways, it's called the Present Value Podcast. If you want to go check it out. All right, so our top 5 Super Nintendo games of all time. This is tough. Look, our lists aren't going to be the same as your lists, but I was trying to come from a very honest place. It is not an objective place. These are my personal favorite Super Nintendo games. Right? Are we all coming from the same point of view?
Yeah.
So we're all allowd to make crucial omissions here with no damage done.
Zelda's allowed to be lower on your list if you want. It's okay.
Yeah. So I have a weird history with the Super Nintendo, though, where I never owned one. Like a bulk of the games that I played from Super Nintendo were just when I emulated it on my computer in high school.
Yeah, I'm in a similar position. I mean, I was born in '95, so I
Jesus Christ
couldn't have played them all. But it's funny, when you originally asked me to do this episode, I was looking at just a general list of Super Nintendo games and had this moment where I realized, wow, I've played so many of these.
Yeah.
How? And it was Game Boy ports, emulators, stuff like that.
Yeah. And Jeff, you were hot and heavy with the Super Nintendo?
Yep.
Okay. You were 31 when you bought it? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that was our first system that we were actually allowed to get.
Oh, wow.
Because we couldn't get the NES.
Did you get it at launch?
Probably not, no. Because I think we had rented it multiple times before then.
Yeah.
Which was always like a fun binge weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Get the system in a couple games and get as far as you could before you had to take it back. But,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then Kyle, it seems pretty important in your family.
Yeah, my first console, too. It was definitely a long-term campaign with my brother and I to break down my parents to convince them to buy us a game console, and that was where they crossed the line at Super Nintendo. And we got the bundle that included Donkey Kong Country, which kind of timestamps when I got it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't there for the launch. Maybe we'll talk about it. I never really played Super Mario World,
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
that's wild.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's important to me. It was my first game console that I had in my house.
I think your brother still has that original box.
I think so. Yeah, he does, for sure.
His pillow, I believe. Yeah, he's very sentimentally
very
attached to that thing. Okay, so the format is we have 5 choices. We'll go around the table, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, all that stuff. If your choice is brought up earlier, just jump in, have that conversation then. Don't save it for later. All that nonsense.
And you insisted that we come up with interesting trivia about it, each entry.
It's not going to be a pop quiz. I
You
just don't want you
insisted.
I just don't want you to say Mario World. It's the best because it's Mario World. Okay, moving on. There's something new to say.
And you want us to put on a
did my
character?
research,
Yeah, New Jersey accent.
Forget about
Mario.
Oh, Mario World fans. Mario. Okay, number 5, Anna. What are you going with?
So for my number 5, I am going with the original Super Nintendo Harvest Moon.
Oh, excellent choice.
Yeah. So, arguably the start of my unhealthy relationship with Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing. It proposed a simple idea at the time, which was an RPG, but make it farming. And that was pretty new at the time. And it really paved the way for all these later farm sim games that combined RPG elements. And it also, it's just fun because there are farming simulators, but it also introduced the idea of having stories and characters. You can, start a family. and the story behind it is really cute. Let's see here. The
Is it Wada?
producer, Wada, had moved to Tokyo after being brought up in the countryside, and he had no interest in moving back to the countryside, but he wanted to make a game with it. So in an interview with Gamasutra, he talks about how do you make a game about caring for cows, the deep love that comes with caring for cows. And so...
it's crazy to have a game that gets away from conflict as the core. It's like, all you need is progression in a game.
Yeah.
That's all that game is just feeling satisfied going through. And like, I looked at that same Gamasutra interview, and there's a quote later on that made me laugh where Wada was talking about the first Harvest Moon, and he says, Grand Theft Auto and some points of Harvest Moon are more or less the same, but at the same time, they are different. It's really up to the producer to put what he really wants to in his game. In GTA, you can hijack a car. And so you can try to improve the way you hijack a car, for example. But in Harvest Moon, it's farming. So we try to get to the same way to improve things. Basically, we have the same base, but the improvement of the message is going to be done in different ways. But it's a weird way.
Different.
A little bit different.
different.
It's just like you're getting better at the things you're doing, whether it's killing or farming, and it's going to be satisfying on a game level, no matter what it is, right?
Yeah.
And it's weird that it's a later game. Like, it came out in 1997 in the States, and then 96 in Japan.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And that was the first, right? That was the first Harvest Moon?
That was the first one, yeah. Which I played the PlayStation one Back to Nature first, and then went back to the Super Nintendo one. But the Super Nintendo one holds up so well.
Yeah.
I think the art I still like better than Harvest or Stardew Valley's art.
Yeah, I haven't played any of the later Harvest Moon games actually, but I've kind of heard similar stories where it's just not as good of an experience, but that there also was a lot of transitions in the studio at the time, and so I think the later Harvest Moons aren't even supposed to really be Harvest Moon. They're just using the name Harvest Moon.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
And the Story of Seasons is
Yeah.
like the real one. That transition is just a mess. And at this point, it's like you're fine with Stardew Valley or going back to the first Harvest Moon, which I think is on like Wii U Virtual Console if you want to play it there.
Yeah, and just getting away from the pixel art, I think, hurts it so much. And I think that's why Stardew Valley was so successful as well. And I think this would have been on my list if I had played it back for the Super Nintendo. I didn't come to it or find out about it until years later, and I think I played it on an emulator then. But then I did try it. I liked it, and I tried the one of the later PlayStation ones because I thought this is going to be so much better. And then it's like, oh no, it just looks like crap compared to like how well the old games hold up.
Right.
And it's just doesn't have that
There's
same
a lot
magic.
of Defenders of Wonderful Life out there for GameCube, so I guess we'll let it pass. But you could play the Game Boy one. I think it's like the third Game Boy Harvest Moon, where you can choose for the first time if you want to be a boy or a girl at the start. Do you know this weird saga? But then if you choose to be the guy, you like go on to classic Harvest Moon, you get married, you keep building up your farm. If you choose to be a girl, you start playing the game, and then when you get married, it says, congratulations, the end, and rolls credits. So you don't get to keep building up your farm. It's like, you've peaked. You've gotten married on a farm.
Incredible.
Hey, it's lovable. I love that game, and I played it on the emulator, and then in college, I remember I was so stressed out and so anxious during like freshman year of college. I'm like, I need comfort food. I'm just going to go play through the original Harvest Moon again, like in my dorm room. And so I have a weird soft spot for that original game.
It's also the weird thing of it, like that Simpsons joke of how they wanted to play the video game about mowing the lawn, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's just yard work. And I hate yard work in real life, but it's just so satisfying to like build up and, you know, go out and clean out all the stones and stuff like that.
No, I agree. And I think it's nice to see games that are based on not just fighting and then winning, but then like this new kind of game loop cycle where it's about caring for things and the reward is just different.
Yeah, for sure. Jeff, I'm number 5.
Number 5 was a tough one. I went through a couple different things, and this is the personal versus best of list, you know, because if I was doing best of, I probably would have just said Chrono Trigger at this point. I've played enough of it.
As your number 1 or number 5?
As my number 5.
Okay.
But I never played it for Super Nintendo, so I passed it up. But
It's your favorite DS game.
Yeah. it would probably be up there at this point. But I went with Secret Mana. Secret of Mana. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Which trivia-wise, was designed by Koichi Ishii.
Clinical.
All right, quiz.
Well, no, it was. And my research, by the way, was just Wikipedia. Apologies that I didn't, do any hard-hitting actual research in like the 16 hours before we filmed this. But there was some interesting stuff about it. It was originally supposed to be Final Fantasy IV.
Yeah.
And
Weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so Koichi Ishii said that it was kind of an extension of the Final Fantasy battle system that they had up to that point. And then I think you brought this up before, that it was codenamed Chrono Trigger
Yep,
while they were
yeah.
working on it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so when it was in development, it was called Chrono Trigger, and the first Mana game is also called Final Fantasy Adventure.
That's
So-
right.
Which was
Yeah.
Game Boy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Game Boy.
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
first
yeah,
Game Boy. Yeah.
Weird.
That's so confusing.
Yeah,
Why?
it's so confusing.
I played Secret Mana as well back in the day, but there's nothing with time or anything in there, is there?
Yeah, I guess it was just the codename at that point, and I think they were
It's a sweet name.
They were also working on Chrono Trigger at the time.
Okay.
and so there was a lot of weird kind of crossover with what
So
people
they
were
It's just
working
like,
on.
Chrono Trigger,
Did they
Mana,
both-
whatever, same thing.
What if
Would've
they
been something.
independently came up with the name Chrono Trigger?
Right. It's a Sucker Punch Naughty Dog Uncharted thing. Yeah.
But then the other interesting aspect of it was also supposed to be for the Super Nintendo CD system
sure.
that they were working on before that fell apart and Sony went on and made their own PlayStation based off what they were working on. But they said in interviews that it was supposed to be much bigger because they were working with the CD.
Oh,
and
so
when
they
they
trimmed
were,
it down at the end?
Yeah, when they were going to shrink it down, and it was supposed to have a much darker tone, apparently.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to have different routes that you could take and different endings, and so when they crunched it down, it kind of became a more linear experience.
How important do you think is your love of Secret of Mana connected to the fact of having multiplayer, like
It
action
super
RPG
is,
experience?
Yes, and the takeaway from all of this is I didn't know any of this crap as a kid. I didn't know what role-playing games were at that point. Like I hadn't played any RPGs, but when my brother and I found out about it, it was just kind of an action game in the vein of Zelda, which we
Yeah.
had liked so much at that point, but we could play co-op, and that was like the huge thing. You could play it with up to 3 players, otherwise the AI controls and you can switch between them at any time. But that kind of switched to a real-time action where you're moving around your characters and you're actually swinging the sword, even though there's like the whole battle system underneath it and
Right.
there's numbers associated with everything. Like that just blew my mind as a kid because I hadn't played any of the other RPGs that came before it.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so that was
Yeah.
that made a huge impact for me and my brother.
Yeah, and I think just having an action RPG on the Super Nintendo at the time, because I mean, I came to it after the fact, but diving into the classic JRPGs through emulation on my computer. I'm sorry, I'm a pirate. But that was a fun one to come across and like, okay, Secret Mana, people say a lot of good things about it, I should play this. And it's like, oh, this stands out so much. It's so different just having that more action component. So obviously it's going to pop for a lot of people and attract a wider audience because of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely one that if I had played when I was young, I think I would have loved.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. Yeah, maybe you didn't.
I don't tell you, man.
Okay.
It was hard to
Okay.
come across cartridges, you know? I don't think I knew anyone that had a copy of it that I could borrow or anything like that, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe I guess I could have rented it, but
Yeah.
had to rent Earthbound Jim 2. You know?
I mean, you can't ignore it. Number 5, Kyle.
Number 5. For me, it was it's Earthbound, which was a toss-up for me between Super Mario RPG and Earthbound.
Yeah.
I really like Super Mario RPG a lot, but like Earthbound edges it out, and I think, like personally, one of the reasons it might is because I've never actually finished Earthbound. Like I
So it's like this mysterious thing in your
like
mind.
I
still?
got to the end. Like I got to the end boss, but like it's such a genuinely funny game because it was basically like written and directed by like a someone who was a writer who wasn't really like a game designer.
Yeah, Shigesato Itoi was a copywriter, but also a TV personality, but also a laundry list of various random
like,
jobs.
Game designer was just sort of like on his list of
Yeah.
like random things, but it's like it's such a weird setting for
Yeah.
an RPG because
Yeah.
it's like basically like the United States through
Yep.
a Japanese lens. It's
Yep.
very strange, and it's like genuinely funny and actually uses game mechanics to tell jokes in a fun way that I hadn't seen at that time.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I really love it. And it's so charming. And like when it came out on Wii U, I bought it and played a bunch of it again. And
Didn't finish it.
Didn't finish it. But like the other thing that does, which is like just a small like RPG mechanic that I see occasionally, but not as much as in Earthbound, is like that it rewards that idea of like getting stronger, and going back and fighting original enemies, and then being so much easier, which is always such like a satisfying thing to do in an RPG.
Yeah.
But if they're weak enough, you don't even fight them. Like the screen just flashes and you just get experience and you move on. And like I loved that. Like in terms of just like going back to familiar locations and like beefing up your squad and stuff like that. Like
Right.
just being able to walk up to enemies and not enter that turn-based combat scenario and just keep going is awesome.
Yeah.
And I love it when I see it today.
Anna, I'm blown away you have that name
Well,
on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, well, I
Get on that
wrote
mic, by
about
the way. I think you're leaning away from it.
Okay.
You can tilt that down, too.
So I wrote about Earthbound for like a year, which is the most Earthbound kind of thing because it's such a cult following, and the people who love it obsessively.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
I count myself inside of that as a part of that. But
Wrote about it for a year? What
yeah.
do you mean?
Well, I was in college and they told me I could write about anything, and I was studying political science, and I said anything. and I proposed a project on like cultural translation in Earthbound, and they let me do
sure.
it. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I studied the localization of it.
Does it? Do you have any like interesting insight into that? Like, was it drastically different for the United States? Did they have to change a lot, or?
Well, so you see some pretty common things that are taken out with any game. So removal of certain religious iconography, removal of nudity. In the Japanese version of Earthbound, in the beginning, when you're woken up by the sirens, you're walking around as Ness. Originally, his sprite is like nude.
Oh,
and
really?
it's such
Really?
like a tiny sprite, right? That
Yeah.
you can't see all that much.
Wait, but don't you like walk outside to explore? Oh,
Yeah.
that makes it.
Oh, but you put on
You're
your
so much
clothes
more
before you go
vulnerable at
outside.
that point.
You put your clothes on. Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
Hang on. Did they model Ness's penis? Or is it just like a generic kind of like Cartman?
It's just like a 2-pixel, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's cool.
Like Goku.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I guess that's what I'm going for. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's super shrunk down, pixelated Goku.
Yeah.
Weird. So do you speak Japanese?
No, so Earthbound, because it has such a cult following and a dedicated following, it's one of the only games where there's been an entire community has formed around localizing it. And this is partially due because of Mother 3, which was never reported to the US. And so that localization was run by fans. The person who led that porting and that localization and translation wrote a book on Earthbound and the localization of Earthbound.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when they finished that Mother 3 translation, like they basically told Nintendo, like, you guys can have this for free. Like,
Yeah.
we just
Right.
want the game to be out, which is like,
Yeah.
But Nintendo has too much pride to do that.
Sure,
you know?
yeah. But
It's
it's
such
like-
a mess.
yeah, it's such an internet meme to be like Mother 3, but it's
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
game should exist. Like,
Yeah.
I would love to play it on
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
I could see them doing kind of a Star Fox 2 maneuver at some point.
Yeah.
In some way of just, hey, we'll just release it on, I know it's a GBA game, right? But like, we'll just release it on the Switch Virtual Console in some way.
I would love that. I mean, because they did Earthbound Beginnings, which I don't really think was like successful, but
No.
it's also the one that people weren't interested in seeing. Like,
But clearly, like, they wanted to start with the beginning to eventually build up to Mother 3. And, like, I think if that had sold well, then we probably would have a localized version of Mother 3. But that was so sad to be like, all right, Earthbound fans, here we go, Earthbound Beginnings, let's get this ball rolling. And it was like, not so much.
Yeah, not
and
like
then
this.
no, Nintendo just has the message of like, there's no profits to be made with Earthbound, so let's move
that's
on.
a bummer.
Well, and Earthbound didn't make Nintendo money for a while. It's been re-released for the Wii U, for the Game Boy, for a lot of different releases. But
What was the Game Boy? Was that just Japan?
right, or maybe
Or the Game
I
Boy-
think maybe
I think it's just Wii U is the only other
Really?
time that it's been re-released. Although
maybe
I
in Japan
default
it's
to
been,
you on this.
No,
honestly.
it's been so long. Even last night when I was brushing up on my Earthbound knowledge, wait, what happens in this game again? Yeah.
But
So-
like that was Wii U. Oh wait, 3DS. That's the other one.
Oh,
and
okay.
I
Yeah.
bought it a third time because I'm one of those people.
Yeah. Well, you should finish it. It's
I know. I was fighting the final boss, and I don't know. I didn't want it to end, and
It was released on Game Boy Advance.
it was, but
Yeah.
just Japan though, right?
Not sure.
Okay.
Most likely.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the thing that sticks out to me is just how funny it is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
sweet. Like it's such a
Yeah.
sweet game. Like you call your dad to like
Yeah.
save, and
Yeah.
that's so
Right.
charming.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that's always stood out about Earthbound to me is that it's a really difficult game, and some parts are so-so, can require a lot of grinding for levels, and they're really difficult boss battles, but one thing that I appreciate is how much the game kind of takes care of you after that. Like, the game still feels like being wrapped in a warm blanket, you know?
Like if you're anxious during your freshman year of college.
I should have gone to Earthbound.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Probably.
And I think that's why it's called Mother,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because it does balance those elements really nicely.
What a weird saga.
Yeah. Do you know anything about the name, actually, in that sort of translation idea? Like, why Earthbound? They just wanted to lean into the alien side of it, I guess. Independence Day was hot at the time. Maybe?
Yeah, I actually don't remember the story behind localizing the name specifically.
Yeah.
Other than that, they thought that it wouldn't appeal to a Western audience. It's funny because it's about America, but it was sort of brushed off as being kind of strange and odd. And so
It is.
And it's also, it was at, I don't know if all that stuff is out there yet, but I know when Frank Cifaldi was digging through like the Game Informer archives, he found like all the original PR and marketing that Nintendo sent Game Informer for Earthbound. And it's a nightmare because they have like the press release of like, Earthbound, check it out, and their description. Do you remember any of these details?
So
is it out there?
Their PR is bonkers. Earthbound's PR. They so included with the game was like a scratch and sniff that was
stickers,
really
right?
like smelled really bad. And in the PR article, there's this giant title. I just see it in my head. There's a pile of goop, which is, by the way, an enemy that you can fight in the game. And at the top, it says in all capital letters, "This game stinks." So you know, when that's your lead,
Fun.
yeah.
But like, so they spend paragraphs describing Earthbound, never just called it an RPG. It's like maybe they had the message at the time that RPGs don't sell. I don't know why Nintendo would have
kids
that.
like me who
Maybe
didn't
that
know
is the
anything about
idea,
them.
right?
Yeah.
And so they just go out of their way to be like, it's a wacky cosmic grinder, or just like these horrible ways of describing. Like, just say it's a funny RPG.
Yeah.
And then the strategy guide was included with it because
it was so hard.
Yeah. Which was one of the cool things about the Wii U version, which is like they actually did put a little weight behind that Wii U release, you know, because like they knew it would generate excitement for Mother 3. But like the cool thing about that was like you could, you know, play on the Wii U, have it on your TV, and then you could actually, there was like a link in game, not in game, but you could open up the Wii U menu to open the strategy guide.
Oh, really?
That like came with the original game and like on the Wii U browser on the gamepad, which I thought was like really neat and cool. And it's like one of those things that's like the Wii U did a couple of those really neat things that like ultimately not a lot of people took advantage of because no one knew what to do with the Wii U.
That is just the Wii U.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Earthbound's great, and like it's I really do genuinely hope that Mother 3 comes out in some shape or form somehow, even if Switch would be ideal. But
Do you remember how you found Earthbound, Anna?
So I grew up moving a lot, and I was living overseas for a while as like an angsty teen and was just sort of clinging to any media that sort of reminded me of home. And I found Earthbound one day. And
Minnesota.
Yeah.
the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, the Blues Brothers, the Beatles. Well, that's the other funny thing. It homogenizes like a lot of America and also the UK. What is what? Who knows?
Just overseas, not Japan. It's all the same. Yeah.
But my main entry was through Smash Bros. I saw NES. I loved playing as NES and Smash, and just wanted to know like what game this character came from.
Yeah, that was totally the confusing thing. I remember first playing Smash Bros. In 64 and thinking like, oh, that must just be like a personification of the original Nintendo console, and they just call it NES and then put an extra S, which I'm sure there's some connection there, obviously, but still, I was like, I had no idea that this game even existed. That's why Smash Brothers is so great.
Yeah.
Hey, you ever heard of Fire Emblem? Apparently, it's an actual game outside of the Smash Brothers characters. Yeah, it's wild. Speaking of Smash Brothers, it's a matter of time until this is announced, but never mind.
Evo, is that what you're trying to pull in here? You all right?
What are you doing?
No, I'm trying to make a stretch that's not working. My number 5, is what I'm trying to say, is a game called Evo Search for Eden.
Okay.
Have you guys played Evo Search for
I've
Eden?
heard you talk about it before, but
I love it. It is basically 2D Spore. It's Spore before Spore. Enix published it. It was developed by a company called Givro Corporation. We all know them. We all love them. But it's at its core, it's an action RPG where it's all from the side, and it's like Spore because you're going through billions of years. So you start out like as a fish attacking other fish. Then you get experience points because of that. Then you can go and upgrade yourself and give yourself like, okay, now I'm a fish, but I'm going to have a pointy horn nose. Or now I'm a fish, but I have faster fins, so I can attack faster, stuff like that. And you can just customize and like build out these characters as you're choosing your evolutionary path. Then eventually you work through like 5 areas, or eras, I should say. So you work out through the ocean, and then early creatures of land, then age of dinosaurs, then the ice age, and then early man. And it's like it has some hokey story about like, oh, you're the daughter of Gaia, some nonsense like that. But really, it's just like a cool design for a game to have like an action RPG on the Super Nintendo where you got to just create these abominations, just these weird looking dinosaur creations. And it totally is grindy to try and blast through it. But it's a really unique game, and I loved it. And also, I think it's pretty expensive to get.
Do you think it would ever come to the Super, like this? I don't know what do they call it for the on the Switch, where they keep adding
That would be
games to it?
awesome.
Like, but do you think it's like
Super Nintendo
popular enough or known enough where? Or
I don't
I
think
have
so.
never heard of
yeah,
this.
I'm not familiar with it.
We didn't
yeah.
have it in the Game Informer Vault. I always want to do a replay or super replay of Evo Search for Eden. But
Did you like it so much because of Animorphs?
Probably. That was
Yeah.
probably a factor. Yeah. It was definitely one of those games where it's like going through so many ROMs in the emulator. It's like, Evo, I guess I'll check this out. It's like, wait, what is this? This has a weird hook. Let's see how far this goes. And I just remember sitting in my friend's basement bedroom just blasting through that entire game. It took forever, but it's super fun. But it's a weird one. Evo Search for Eden. Number 4, Anna.
All right. So for 4, I had Secret of Mana. So
Oh,
we already
perfect.
talked about
There we
that.
go.
Love
Yeah.
it. Jeff, I'm number 4.
Number 4 is Super Mario Kart.
Oh, tell us about this game. But first, tell us about your experience with it.
I think I've talked about my experience. Like the biggest thing was that my brother and I, it was another one that my brother and I played a ton of. And so this goes back into kind of the history of it. It came out after F-Zero because F-Zero was a launch game, but F-Zero was only a single player game.
Yeah.
And so Nintendo said specifically that they wanted to try and make a game that was focused on multiplayer, while I guess still like using Mode 7 technology, which was such a big and important thing. But so it was like the go-to multiplayer game for my brother and I again. And
Yeah.
it was, I had told the experience before, but it was the game that made me cry because Princess Peach would always pass me right at the end of the finish line because my brother was so much better that the AI would rubber band to him instead of
Oh, and he was
me.
always Peach?
Yes. No, he was always in first place, but he was so
Oh.
far ahead of me that Peach would come and try and catch up with him, like while I was struggling to stay in second place and pass me. And so one day,
And this was like,
I had a breakdown and I cried about it. I cried about Princess Peach. Yes, but it was
Breakdown.
yeah.
do you still harbor resentment for her, or are you guys good?
No, we got over it.
Good.
Yeah.
But it
through
was
long sessions of Super Princess Peach.
Yes. Yeah, but it was, and apparently it didn't start as a Mario game. It was months into development. They wanted to make kind of a kart racing game, and then they tried putting in Mario, and turns out that was a good idea.
The Smash Brothers trick.
Yeah, but that was also kind of a jumping off point for using like the cast of Mario characters. Like, there had been like Dr. Mario and stuff like that, but that was kind of where they figured out that you could treat the entire series of characters as a cast and put them in other kind of experiences,
Right.
which they've done with a billion other sports games. And then it was also notable because it started the kart racing genre, right?
Yeah, that is a weird idea.
Which and the formula remains so similar for so many games where it's like it's not just like the less realistic racing, but you also have to have power-ups out there that you get that you can then attack other people with. But all of that was, people say like it's a harder one to go back to in terms of Super Nintendo games.
I found that for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
Yeah.
daughter can also confirm that.
Yeah.
She was offended by that when she loves Mario Kart 8, and I showed
Yeah.
her that, and I was like, "This is what it used to look like." And she was like,
Yeah.
"Can we play something different, please?"
I'd rather play a dumb Stampede game.
A good, fun Stampede.
You're right.
I still do enjoy it though. I went back not too long ago and tried it, and most of it's nostalgia at this point. But
Oh, yeah.
I just very much appreciated the racing games. I also always liked the battle mode, which seems to have become less important to the series.
Well, it wasn't in the Wii U release, but then for the Switch re-release, that's how that worked out, right? They went and added that back in and stuff.
Actually like it still? Or?
I like it. I don't know if...
Yeah.
I don't know the numbers on that.
The importance is declined, for sure. I mean, they didn't even include it at a certain point, but it was... Yeah, it's a good question. I think people like it.
And I think the new battle mode's hard because there are just so many different ways to battle now that I would go in and I'd get confused rather than just having, 3 balloons. That's it.
Yeah, you get thrown in jail.
And there's coins and...
Wait, there's jail in Mario Kart?
Yeah, you're like on a team and you get thrown in jail and you got to wait for someone to let you out of jail.
Oh my God. Yeah. I love still hearing about how well Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is selling on Switch. I guess one of the best-selling games in the entire system.
That's also kind of one of my takeaways of that is such a huge franchise and it has been so good for Nintendo over the years,
Yeah.
That I think people sometimes, everyone always thinks Zelda, Mario, Metroid.
Forget that.
Yes.
Yeah, Mario Kart, number one, pretty easily, right? In terms of Switch sales and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Overall, the Mario Kart series has sold over 138 million copies.
That's across all
everything.
The games.
Yeah. Okay. Super Mario Kart, the original, sold 8.76 on that console. It's a crowd pleaser. No one's going to say no to Mario Kart.
Yeah.
And we all know the best Mario Kart is
8.
Yeah, probably 8. I wanted to say Double Dash. I was like, it's got everything you need in 8. Number 4, Kyle.
Number 4. I thought I told my phone to not turn off. Okay, so it might maybe be surprising that I have The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past at number 4.
That is messed up.
So
I think you broke your list.
Blew it.
Sorry.
Blew it.
So for personal perspective on this game, my first Zelda was Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
And I adored Ocarina of Time. It's it set me on this path to want to write about games and love video games. And then it was okay, I got to go back and see where this came from. So I actually played Ocarina and Majora's first and then went back and played Link to the Past. The first time I played it and completed it was on Game Boy Advance.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
So, I don't really have a lot of nostalgia for it because it was mostly it almost felt like required reading to me. I really love Ocarina of Time.
It's a great setup.
I want to learn what this is about, and it's a great game, and I really love it, and it's so well designed, and even that opening where you're walking out of the house and it's raining, I came to it later, but even that looked amazing, and I was like, whoa, this is a Super Nintendo game? This looks incredible, and then just getting deeper into it and the alternate worlds and turning into a bunny, all this stuff was not spoiled for me. And I really love it, but the reason it's at number 4 for me is just because of personally, I don't have the nostalgia for it as much as I just played it and just appreciated it and had a good time with it as a really well designed game.
Yeah, for sure. We at E3 last year we interviewed Tezuka. We did a rapid fire interview with him about Super Mario Maker 2, also a little bit about Link's Awakening, a little bit about Link to the Past there, and it was really weird. I couldn't find it anywhere online, but he was saying that he took over the direction of that game halfway through its development, that originally had a different director that was
which I guess
kicked off the project, where it's it could have been Miyamoto. It's all very nebulous, but that's
I don't
the
think
first
that's
I'd heard of
uncommon
that.
for Zelda. I think Ocarina of Time went through that as well.
Oh, really? Just shifting directors?
I don't think Onuma is credited as the director on Ocarina of Time because he came in kind of late and sort of
I thought he just designed the water temple and stuff, but
no,
he actually
I think he did more than that, but I think
okay.
But the water temple, people do credit to him just almost as a joke,
Nice slap in the face.
Yeah.
But anyways, Link to the Past. I mean, Jeff, what's your experience with that thing?
It's my number 1 game on this list.
Yeah.
Spoiling it, man.
Yes, that was one game where we didn't own it for a long time, but we had rented it multiple times, and so it was also there's the nostalgia there for it, but also kind of this mystique around it of because we had never beaten it, you know, and of course you had to restart every time you rented it again. So but it was it's just in terms of that was the first game where it was holy crap, this feels like an actual world that I'm going into. And and I feel like one of the notes that I made, or the interesting things that I came along, was that it didn't sell as well, compared to previous games in the series.
Really? Even Zelda 2?
The original one sold 6.5 million. This one sold 4.6 million. Zelda 2 sold like 4.4 million. Or
Okay.
so it barely did better than Zelda 2. But this just, and there were a lot of elements in those old games that actually, were, they established first. But this one just, because of the better technology and everything, it just felt like this is a world I'm being immersed in. Like this is a story that I care about, even though there's not that much story to it. But then you go to the different locations that all feel so unique in the different dungeons, and you come across, like Kiki the monkey, which was, and those are just such potent memories that I think that all comes from kind of the upgraded visuals and the extra stuff that they
and the
could do.
music, of course,
Yeah.
is
Of
just
course.
incredible.
Yeah.
Do you think it is like number one nostalgic comfort food for you, Jeffem? Like if I had to melt you into your childhood and I could
If-
only put one game on the TV, it would
If
be
there
Link
was
to
a
the
game,
Past?
yes, that I could go back to at any point, I think it would be that one, yes.
How old do you remember it? Do you think you'd have to look at a walkthrough at all if you blasted through it today?
I probably should, but it's also the kind of game where I wouldn't mind just being lost for a while and having to try and figure out again where I'm supposed to go and stuff
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
just pleasant to exist there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
played it on Game Boy Advance as well in college, and I remember like
Did you complete it at the time?
I didn't.
No? Okay.
No, and I'm very stupid. And I remember every time I would get stuck, it's like, okay, I'm not going to look at a walkthrough. But there's this guy in my video production class. I'm just going to ask him because he's a huge Zelda fan, and he'll see if he can give me some vague hints to kind of lead me in the right direction for Link to the Past.
You don't have to go too far to find like an expert on
Yeah.
Link to the Past.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like, just yell at the window. I think
Yeah.
would probably have it covered.
I was 7 years old when I first started that game, and I would ask my mom all the time, like, can I call my cousins? I'm stuck again. It's like the 5th time that week.
The other crazy thing to think about too is when I was looking through the research and stuff, is that game is a megabyte.
Oh, really?
That's
Yes,
insane.
it is 1 megabyte.
I think we can all agree, best megabyte ever.
Well, there's the villain from Reboot.
You know what? Okay, it's like top 3 megabytes.
definitely.
I also think like it is tough to go back to Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 now. It's really hard, but I think Link to the Past you can go back to and it still feels good. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like moving around still feels good and is very playable.
in terms of that thing of something being homework, like
Right.
the original Zelda is such a slog that no one actually wants to play that unless you're Jeff Cork, I guess.
We did the Super Replay back at Game Informer, and that was my first time seeing through the entire game, and good God, that was a slog. We had to come up with Bizarre Detective to entertain ourselves, yeah.
Yeah, but again, it might just be my own personal nostalgia, but every time I go back to it, it's like, man, this is just amazing. This is such a nice experience.
Yeah, for sure. My number 4 is Metal Warriors. It's from the same team that made like Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Yeah, that's a game that I think was probably more popular.
You're asking me?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
So it's developed by LucasArts, eventually published by Konami, but there's a weird saga where it was going to be published by Nintendo and actually packed in with the Super Nintendo, which completely would have changed the fate of my beloved Metal Warriors. But
Could have been the Wii Sports of its
it
generation.
really could have been, yeah. So side perspective, you control a robot, marching around, shooting enemies, got cool cutscenes and stuff for the single player. But then the part that I love is it's like a little bit Blaster Master, where you can like get out. And it is so satisfying. I'm a sucker for any game where you're piloting a giant mech and then you can jump out and get into another mech. And like these aren't just like the standard, even like Titanfall designs of mechs. Like they have different styles, but then they have like, okay, this mech is just a sphere. This mech is a spider and can climb on walls. And so you're like exploring these levels and finding different mechs. And when one gets too damaged, then you pop out. And when you're the pilot, you have a jetpack and just like this little pistol. And so you're just like trying to hang on because you're just, you're going to shatter if anything hits you, trying to get into the next mech. But the star of the show, when I found this game, was the multiplayer, where it has split screen multiplayer. And it was so much fun. It's some of my favorite.
Cooperative or competitive?
Competitive. Yeah. So it's just like, all right, you start out, you're in mechs, you can damage each other, you can then get out, try and fly to a different mech. So it's like part scavenging to try and find the coolest mech while also just a cool way to battle your friends. But it was also, I learned not too long ago, that it was originally called Battle Droids. And they had to get George Lucas's permission because they wanted to use the word droids, even though it wasn't a licensed Star Wars game. But then we'll land on Metal Warriors. And then apparently Nintendo didn't want to publish it because it was too close to the game Cybernator. They said, it looks too much like Cybernator, so we don't want to go near it. But I don't think Cybernator had a multiplayer aspect.
So it's completely different.
completely different.
It sounds like a Titanfall predecessor, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's a weird thing because I talked to them about it on the Titanfall cover story trip because Joel Emsley, like the art director, he had a weird connection to it where, I'm trying to remember, like the art director that he learned from in the industry was the art director on Metal Warriors. So there is like a weird lineage if you want to cross the path, go back up the path all the way up from Titanfall to Metal Warriors. Not like it was a direct inspiration, but oh, there's a dev connection there, which is weird. Anyways, Metal Warriors, I love it. Still fun. Number 3, Anna?
Let's see here. So for my number 3, I have Donkey Kong Country 2.
Donkey Kong Country 2?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Because that's just the
pirate one.
Yeah. So I really like this game because, well, one, like a lot of these SNES games, I played it on the Game Boy, and the first time I ever played it was in the dentist's office.
Oh, no.
But I kept, I was in the dentist's office, and every, 6 months or so, I'd play it, and then finally asked my mom, like, can I get this game? And so I really like this one. Obviously, the soundtrack is incredible.
I mean, is it... In my mind, it's the best Donkey Kong Country soundtrack. Maybe people might say Tropical Freeze right now, but do you like it more than the first one soundtrack?
No, the first one is still my favorite.
Yeah.
But 2 is really good. It has the Bramble.
Yeah,
Bush.
it has the Bramble Blast. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's been remixed so many times. different names.
It also, man, the title screen music
is
so good.
Yeah.
Just that like the da 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 da.
I remember
it's like that. I love that.
Yeah.
It's the hook theme, but I still love it. I remember
Yeah.
I asked David Wise about that, the composer, about the connections to Hook, and he's like, "Oh no, it's not connected to Hook in any way. It's just there's a certain type of music that he was drawing from, just old adventure." But like
Piratey,
the fact that the game came out like a couple years after Hook came out, you listen to that title theme. There's no way it is not directly influenced by that. But I remember loving like the Game Boy version, which is Donkey Kong Land 2. But I remember my friend had it, and I would just sit on that title theme with the Game Boy up to my ear, listening to it over and over again.
Like a boombox over your shoulder.
And then I would march around town, the coolest guy around, talking about, it kind of sounds like the Hook soundtrack, you guys.
Listen to this. Just holding it up to everybody. I love Dixie Kong, too.
Yeah.
Just like mechanically, like just being able to float. I mean, that game is super hard compared to the first one, but her in particular, like, made it much more manageable. And I love that she showed back up in Tropical Freeze, and like she's the lead character in Donkey Kong Country 3.
Yeah, well, and that was another thing that drew me to it, was I was playing all these games, and it was fun to finally get to play as Dixie Kong. And I also sort of liked this larger story of the little guy going to rescue the big guy this time. Yeah. So.
I remember there's one of those, like, mind-blowing moments on the internet when people realized, wait, it was called Diddy's Kong Quest? Like, okay, like the wordplay I feel like was slowly seeping in for decades for people before they realized, like, oh, that's a clever name.
Now this might be a little bit of a spoiler for Donkey Kong Country 2, but do you remember King K. Rool's final boss form? Because in the third one he's like a scientist. Because like in Smash Brothers as King K. Rool, all his special abilities like emulate his final boss modes from DKC 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, weird.
So like the forward attack is like his Donkey Kong Country 2 canon, I think, and then like his third jump is the helicopter backpack from Donkey Kong Country 3. But I don't remember what DKC 2 was, because I mean I love that series, but I only played the second one through once because I think it's the hardest of all three of those.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
it's tough.
I got a lot of mileage out of that game just because it was so hard.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was one of those ones that like I came to later again. Like played a lot of Donkey Kong Country 1 and 3 randomly, but 2 I think I was like in high school when my sister gave it to me as a gift. Like she tracked it down at a flea market. And it took me forever to play through it. Like it took even as like a better gamer at the time, like not being a child necessarily. Like it was still brutal to get through that. For sure.
Yeah. Awesome, Jeff. Number 3.
Number 3 is Super Mario World because it's Super Mario World.
Mario's in it. He's got a cape.
No, and this is one that it's hard because whenever we had the Super Mario ranking arguments at GI, it seemed like Super Mario Brothers 3 always won out for some reason.
Probably because it's like an older crowd, right?
Yeah, I think at some point we may have flipped the room, but it seems like your love of Super Nintendo kind of stopped depending on how old you were when you played them.
Yeah.
If you were old enough to remember Super Mario Brothers 3 when it came out in its heyday, like that cemented it as the pinnacle game, but I was not. I did not have that nostalgia for it, and so all that nostalgia dumped into Super Mario World for me. But that's another case of the added technology and moving up to 16-bit graphics, I think, just flesh out that world and the ideas, the themes for each of the different areas so much better for me that even now, like when I think back to Super Mario Brothers 3, there aren't a lot of, like, I can't think of a lot of different individual levels from Super Mario Brothers 3 that they don't stand out to me in the same way when I think about Super Mario World.
That's interesting. Maybe, more variety in levels, in world, but I still, maybe this is odd, but having not played either of those games as a kid, like, I love the art in Mario 3 still so much more. Just like the color palette is so bizarre. So even if there's not enough variety in the levels, doesn't pop, I just like the look of that game still. I think it holds up in a really weird, abstract-y kind of way. But do you remember playing Mario World for the first time? Was that like the game you got with the Super Nintendo then?
Yeah. And we had rented it multiple times before then. I remember we would go on skiing trips sometimes during the weekends, but we had rented a Super Nintendo that weekend, and so I super didn't want to go skiing because I wanted to stay home and play Super Mario World.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, that was, just another go-to that we played so much of as kids, and I couldn't come up with any interesting trivia for that one. No, but the interesting trivia attached to it is that Miyamoto wanted to make Yoshi much earlier than Super Mario World.
Yeah.
There was Yoshi's Cookie that came out at some point.
Yeah,
before
they retrofitted it on the NES, which Game Freak.
For the NES, yeah. But apparently it was an idea that he wanted and toyed around with for a while, and apparently he made a game called Devil World.
Yeah, the
much
Pac-Man clone.
Earlier, yes, and that was the one thing that I didn't know. So I was reading about it, and I went through Devil World and looked at the picture of this small green dragon, and I was like, okay, I can kind of see that. And then I started reading the description of it, which is like, Tadagon or whatever his name is goes around these levels, and he has to collect crosses and Bibles in order to fight the devil who dances at the top of the screen the entire game. And they were like, suffice to say, it couldn't come out in America. There was no way in hell it was coming out in America. But then when I looked up video, because I thought this game is bonkers, and I was like, oh yeah, it's totally just a Pac-Man clone.
And it's so sad to see, well, I don't know about sad, but it's like somebody as brilliant as Miyamoto is just like recognizing, God, I missed the boat on Pac-Man. That's clearly a brilliant design. I'm just going to do it, but I'll do a weird Christian version of it.
Yeah.
Make sure it never comes out in America.
That's
this
right.
is only for Japan.
That's right. Sweet. Excellent choice. Kyle, not much love for Super Mario World.
No, I sort of missed the boat on that one because I got my Super Nintendo late.
Yeah.
It's not one I ever owned. It's not one I...
Have you gone back and played through it?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I own it on Wii U, and then on the SNES Classic, I sat down and played it a bit. I've given it a shot, like a genuine shot.
But you've never made it through credits?
No, it doesn't click with me. Like, for whatever reason.
I'm kind of in the same boat where I eventually, right around the same time I finally played through Mario 3, I also played through Mario World. And playing it as an adult, it's like, I had a fine time. It was a little tougher than I expected going through it. I don't know how many levels I could list or even talk about in half. Hey, Jeff, here's a weird question. Do you like ghost houses?
Yeah, I like the ones in Super Mario World.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like it's a thrill whenever you encounter them. Maybe it's because I don't like puzzles. Every time I encountered a ghost house in any Mario game, so I was like, oh god.
As you've said, you're very stupid. So.
I'm incredibly stupid. Yeah, no doubt about it. Great choice. Hey, Mario World, great choice. There it is.
Yeah.
Kyle.
My number. What were we on 3, right?
Yeah.
My number 3 is basically my Mario World. It's Donkey Kong Country 1.
Oh, sure.
Because that was like I got the Super Nintendo, as we talked about, with Donkey Kong Country packed in, and like that was like, playing NES so much at friends' houses and dabbling with Super Nintendo, and then seeing that game, I was like, oh my god, this looks incredible.
Yeah.
Like, this looks like the future of video games. And the platforming is fantastic. I love the soundtrack. It might be like my favorite video game soundtrack, period.
Really?
Yeah, like we always joke about like David Wise versus Grant Kirkhope and like which ones we're fans of. And I just
legally you can't say that the podcast intro is made by Grant Kirkhope.
That's right.
So you can't reveal your answer.
You'll bleep this out, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but that game, like, it's like just as like Jeff was describing with Mario and like Harvest Moon and everything, it's just like that playing that game is just like comfort food for me.
Right.
Like when the SNES Classic came out, I sat down over the course of like 2 hours one afternoon and just played through it because it was just like I just love this game and it makes me so happy.
Yeah.
And like I love 2, and then but like like the sort of favorite order would be like 1, 3, then 2. Yeah, I just really love that game.
Did you get the VHS in the mail about the making of?
I don't think so, but I've gone back and watched it like on YouTube. The reason I paused is because I got some of those VHSs.
Oh,
I got
really?
like the Mario 64 one.
Oh, I should watch the other ones because
Yeah.
for some reason I never owned a Nintendo console until GameCube.
I don't know what.
I don't know
let
what
you
triggered
get-
it.
Yeah,
I was
I was
never
a Nintendo Power subscriber.
Okay, I was not. Somehow they somehow got the VHS of the making of Donkey Kong Country
They knew
into
this
my
kid.
mailbox. Yeah, it's like this kid's gonna want to make a lot of videos about making video games at some
Yeah.
point. I watched that so much.
Yeah.
And I don't know in what universe I would watch that and then not like beg my parents for a Super Nintendo.
Did you play? Did you ever play that game, or did you ever go back to it? Or
I
anything?
eventually played the second one then on Game Boy at my friend's
Oh, okay.
place and stuff, but that was really my only connection to it. But
Did you play the first one at all, Anna?
No, I didn't.
Just
yeah.
skip to 2.
Yeah, well, it was just sort of based on the Game Boy and so
Yeah.
what I had played, and that was my first Donkey Kong game, period. And
Yeah.
so it was the first time I experienced that platforming. So I just figured, well, go with 2.
Yeah, you
no,
get
for
it.
sure.
Go for the
yeah,
highs.
and like just the diversity of levels in that is crazy. Like
Yeah.
you start in the jungle and make your way through the mountains, and there's these like crystal caves with this like eerie soundtrack, and there are like scary levels, and like even like there's a couple levels where you play through factories that are like polluting areas of the island and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just like it felt like a fully realized world to me in a strange way. And then of course we all watched the TV show. And we're just offended.
it's like we can reach out and touch them. They're so real.
But yeah,
I do,
love that game.
I do remember the graphics being so groundbreaking when that game came out, and I think we had been playing it at like Thanksgiving when it first came out, so we had a lot of relatives over, and I remember 2 of my older cousins had come in, and they were the younger one was so amazed. He was like, "You got to check this out. You got to see these graphics," and my older cousin had to go and borrow someone's glasses because he forgot his glasses. So he
my
was like
God.
looking at it like right up against the
Did
screen.
he
It was,
break
like,
the glasses when his
amazing.
eyes actually punch through the
That-
glass?
yeah.
like
And now
Donkey
he's-
Kongs do.
He's been blind ever since because of that. But it was just such a like technological leap.
Oh,
even
yeah.
though-
Yeah, it's awesome.
yeah.
Let's see. My number 3 is Harvest Moon. Anna, number 2.
There you go.
My number 2 is Link to the Past. So
Oh,
there we go.
perfect. Now
yeah.
we're flying.
Now we're buzzing through.
So that's the one that you played on Game Boy, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah. I played that on Game Boy, and it's funny because I actually do have quite a bit of nostalgia for it, even because it was like my 3rd Game Boy game.
Well, that's confusing. Yeah, just think about like those re-releases. It's like how I'm nostalgic for the special edition of Star Wars because like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that in theaters when I was 10. Like, of course, it has the same impact, just a different generational
Yeah.
release.
Yeah.
Weird. Number 2.
Number 2 is Super Metroid.
There it is.
Someone had to say it.
You
to us
had
sooner
to
or
say the
later,
magic
right?
words. Thank you for being our classic guy, Jeff.
Yeah.
it's good.
It's
a good
good
video game.
Yes, it's notable for its Metroid-style level design because
Could you maybe call it a
came out 3 years.
Metroidvania?
Yeah, it came out 3 years before Symphony of the Night, which
Yes.
is why everyone.
It's only
everyone-
3?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
I think so.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I totally understand why that got certain people in the Game Informer office much more than it does me. But yes, it was just Metroid clearly established that
Yes.
much earlier, and I don't know why we call it Metroidvania.
What is your experience with Super Metroid? Do you remember picking it up for the first time?
Yeah, that was one that we actually had as opposed to Link to the Past for
Yeah.
a long time, and it took me a long time before I actually beat it, but that was the first game, speaking of crying because of Princess Peach earlier, that was the first game I cried at because of a story moment.
Really?
Yes, the ending where the baby Metroid comes out and saves you, sacrificing himself.
It was the Baby Yoda of its day.
Yeah, had me crying, and that was one of the first games where I ended up being better at it or just playing it more than my brother did. And so most of the games I would watch my brother, play through the harder things. That was one where I was actually got to the end myself and was playing through it by myself, and the finale of that game is still just like blows me away and makes me shake every time I'm playing it, because it is so intense. And and at that point I didn't understand, that it's a scripted moment where Mother Brain beats you, and so I was just like, why am I losing all my health? I can't believe this. And the Metroid saves you, and I cried, and then I had to actually fight, the final form, and then you have to actually work your way out of it as the time is ticking down.
Which is also in the beginning of the game, right? So it's like this weird full circle thing?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a Metroid thing at this point, right? Having a timer where you have to get out of there.
Yeah, I guess so.
So my experience with Metroid is I EGM called it the greatest game of all time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, well, I have to play this. And I was like high school at that point. And then like I found a physical copy, and it was expensive, but like I bought it because I was like, if this is the greatest game of all time, I want to have it. I want to play through it. And like it was great, and I really liked it. And the thing that struck me, like even coming to it late like that, like because I was like, we were coming up on the PS2 era at that point, was like how creepy it is. Like initially, like it's even. Like then I was like, oh, this is like the tone here is really impressive. Like it is eerie.
There were
cool.
areas that were legitimately haunting, which is not an adjective I use a lot when I'm describing, games and stuff. But even back then, and a lot of it was the music.
I mean, the music's huge because you remember like, oh, Metroid. You think of like, for me, an idiot, I'm like, oh, the good songs from Smash Brothers. Like, okay, Kraid's Lair, stuff like that. But it's like, oh no, that was all just in the first one. The second one is so much more atmospheric and subtle with the soundtrack. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that even though she doesn't have a lot of character, it was one of the earliest games that came out where you had a female protagonist that was, even though she didn't have a lot of character, like she was a badass and everyone respected that.
Yeah, you don't need a lot of personality.
She was an intergalactic bounty hunter.
Was it a surprise for you when she took off her helmet at the end of the game? You did know about that.
You mean like the original Metroid?
Oh, did you play the original Metroid?
Yeah.
You did? Okay.
Oh, okay.
That was another one that I hadn't beat. I think it was a different cousin that I watched beat it. And he was good enough at it that he could get like the swimsuit ending, and so that blew all of our minds, our prepubescent minds. But the other, I think this was the most interesting fact because I did not know this. It did not sell well at all.
Really?
Because it came out so late, it ended up being the 33rd best-selling game for Super Nintendo. And it was outsold by Super Scope 6, if you remember that peripheral. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I didn't know anyone who had that.
I know. That's why it's so remarkable.
Yeah.
But yeah, it only sold, I think it was like less than 1.5 million copies or something like that.
I don't know why Nintendo isn't backing Metroid more.
Yeah.
Did it get any ports?
Well, like the Virtual Console, obviously, but
it didn't come to Game Boy Advance.
That's really weird
because they did they did Zero Mission, and then Metroid Fusion was like a big deal to launch the Game Boy Advance with that.
Yeah.
The only other place is the SNES Classic, the Wii U Virtual Console, I guess the 3DS Virtual Console.
Yeah,
but just Virtual Console.
Yeah, but it is such a weird, and like all of the history talks about how everyone thinks it's the greatest game and how all the magazines have, kind of crowned it as one of the best games ever. But I can totally understand how Nintendo has a different perspective on it because they did it had a very large budget and a long time going into it because the first one was so successful, and then it did not sell well. You know?
And there's even the weird wrinkle too on top of that, like sales-wise, it's not pulling through. And then I also remember learning from a good source that Miyamoto, he doesn't really like it. It's not his thing, right? And not like he's pushing everything forward with Nintendo, but like if you're creative, you need somebody to champion it. And if the most powerful creative voice in your company is like, I don't really get it. Yeah. I don't know why people like this so much.
The boss doesn't really care about it, and it didn't sell well.
Yeah, exactly. That's a tough one to champion then. But still, there's those rumors that there's going to be a new 2D Metroid game this year that seem pretty reliable, maybe connected to Fusion, so that should be interesting to see.
And it is still my favorite Metroid game. I don't know if everyone feels that way. If you guys liked the Prime stuff.
I like Metroid Prime. But.
And when that 2D came, the new 2D game came out, it like without the sprites, I don't know what it is. I'm
you
broken.
Can do it.
I'm a broken human being.
Well, you can play the sprite remake then that the fan made.
Oh,
was that nuked?
Another Metroid 2 remake.
Yeah,
it's probably hard to track down, but
you can
probably
find
know.
You can find it. Anyways, Kyle, number 2.
Number 2 is Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island.
Yeah,
that's the full title.
Hell yeah, it is.
Yeah, I love that game. I sort of missed the boat on Super Mario World, but I did. I got a copy of Super Mario. Well, we'll just call it Yoshi's Island. Pretty quickly after it came out.
Yeah,
and it's. I just love that it puts like a wrinkle on just like solid platforming, with the egg throwing.
I mean, just like Dixie, having the hover mechanic for Yoshi is just like, every platformer needs that little hover bump there.
And the art is so cool. Like it's one of those things. It's that there's the story that like Miyamoto, to just keep talking crap about Miyamoto not understanding things. Like he didn't like the way Donkey Kong Country looked. Apparently, like he was never a fan of that. He just thought it would age poorly. And I mean, he was right, But the Yoshi's Island look, I think, is pretty timeless. Like it looks like a child's drawing kind of, and it works so well to be like carrying a baby around. And like the bosses are so great. Every boss is interesting and cool.
Yeah,
and,
Raphael the Raven, which I think is like the fifth world boss where you're on the moon, you have to like slam it and go around there. I loved it, and it's like, man, it was like a weird precursor to Super Mario Galaxy in a way, just like running on all the sides of the planet. And I loved it that when I visited Nintendo's headquarters in the States, one of their conference meeting rooms on the ground floor is called Raphael the Raven.
Oh, really?
It's like, what a weird specific name for your meeting room.
Is it a circular conference room?
It is. Yeah,
Okay,
it's upside
good.
down. You have to stomp on the little plants.
But also that final boss is just incredible, and the soundtrack is awesome. It's one of those.
Yeah, just that weird metal. Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's one of those games that like for a long time I would just like get home from school and be like, I'm going to go beat the end boss because it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
Like I would just play that end boss over and over. And it's a game that I've played through multiple times. I played it through on Game Boy Advance when it came back out on Game Boy Advance, even though they like changed the audio a little bit.
Well, they added like the boing hop and basically like the Smash Brothers sound effects in there, which I'm not crazy about, but it's still a great version. They added new levels as well, but a lot of those were just ridiculous because I was playing through.
And they're also hard to get because you have to get like perfects on every level. I unlocked them and I played them.
Yeah.
But I don't think I really had the best time.
No, because I was going for a 100% run when I was playing on the DS on that Game Boy version. And yeah, I remember there's a level called Items Are Fun, where it's like, here's just everything from Yoshi's Island packed into one level. Go ahead and find everything to get 100%. And I could never do it. Like that one, I think there's another one, but that I never found.
There's
all
a
the items
crazy
there.
sewer level that my brother and I drew the map to try to get through because there were pipes that would take you to different locations and stuff like that. I think that was one of the bonus levels, right?
One of the downsides of Yoshi's Island are the mazes.
Yeah.
Especially like towards the end, I think there's a level called like the long, long maze, and they aren't joking. Like even though I've played through that game so many times, like that one's always like, oh no, here we go. This is going to be a grind.
Yeah, just fantastic. It's like I mean, I don't know. There's always that debate is like, is it a Mario game? But like if you consider it a mainline Mario game, it is like easily my favorite 2D Mario.
Oh, I'm 100% the same camp. Yeah, and
by
it's
a
nice
mile.
not having nostalgia packed in with all this stuff coming to it late. Like it wasn't until college that I even really played Yoshi's Island. Like I might have seen it here and there or something. I was like, oh, I should check this out. I loved it in a way that topped all other 2D Nintendo platformers for me. Like I think it has aged so well, the variety, and also I don't know if it's a little bit of like the underdog thing of people don't like it. There's some like Mario World fans that are like, that's like the weird kiddie offshoot.
You don't like it?
But it's weird because like people loved Mario 2, and that's also like a varied take.
Yes, and I love Mario 2.
What the hell?
I never played it when I never really even knew about it. I never knew that it was called Super Mario World 2. And so when I finally found that out when I was in college and was like, oh my God, there was a Mario World 2 that I missed. I was like, what is this crap? And I've tried to go back to it multiple times because you guys have talked about it so many times. I guess I have to try again, but it just has never clicked with me.
Do you hate it too, Anna?
Yoshi's Island?
Yeah, as much as Jeffem clearly
No, I mean,
despises it.
I really like Yoshi's Island. I didn't play it a whole lot. Borrowed it from a friend one time. But I just really loved the Yoshi's Island field in Smash Bros.
Oh,
and
sure.
So
okay.
to me, and that's the first time that like I got connected to Yoshi's Island.
Yeah. That's one of like the heart and the two
Yep,
levels going down.
and there's like the two. Yeah, like the 2D drawings again with the children's style. And
right.
But playing it again, just always nice to have that jump. And with Yoshi, for me as like a young kid, Yoshi was always a more interesting character to me than
More
Mario.
fun because dinosaurs are cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he poops eggs as like a weapon. Like
Yeah.
that was
What else do you
so
want?
bizarre to me. And I was like, it was one of those things where you like the first time you eat an enemy and poop out an egg, it was kind of that thing of like, they're allowed to do this? Like, he's just allowed to poop out eggs and we're all okay with this?
Zooming in on the opening for you. But also it's cool.
I took my glasses off and pressed my face up against the glass.
But it's nice just having that weird variety too of like obviously you can turn into the weird vehicles like Yoshi has a helicopter for some reason or the mole.
But why not? Why not?
Have fun? Exactly. But then even beyond that, like okay, then you can swallow the watermelons, shoot out the seeds. Like you have a little gun for Yoshi.
Donkey Kong Country pulled the same trick, but it's so effective of just like the start screen, just basically saying like everything takes place here.
Yeah.
And that just like, I don't know, it just makes it more compelling of like, let's zoom in here and like explore this place. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
and then when you
made it
finish
feel
the
more real.
world, it's like, okay, it'll zoom out and change that.
Yeah.
Eventually the entire world map will kind of change.
Yeah,
And that's like
for sure.
a good example of using that like Super Effects chip, like Super Effects 2 chip, I guess, in that area it would have been. But then like having that world map on the title screen, and then also like in a lot of the dungeons having like the little doors and wooden platforms that come slamming down and stuff. It's such a weird use of 3D.
Yeah.
Even though I love the art in that game, there are like those moments where it's like, that looks so different. That, and then also, I think it's like the
It's
game
like CGI in an old movie, kind of.
Yeah.
Right?
And then like even, I think it's the game over screen. Like it looks like Donkey Kong Country. It's like this weird take on the art.
Sure,
you know?
yeah.
So there's
Forgot
weird
about that.
like discrepancies in that
I just
incredible
didn't get
art.
game overs that much.
My number
Boy.
2 is also Yoshi's Island.
Yeah, it's great.
The best. Anna, number 1.
Number 1.
So this probably isn't a surprise, but my number 1 is Earthbound.
There we go.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about Earthbound that we didn't get to before?
I don't know. We talked about it for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know, just that, that what I like about it is that it takes place in the U.S. and we still haven't really seen any RPGs do that. And that's something that I appreciate about it is just the work that it inspired later on. So games like Undertale that were inspired by it.
Yeah.
Oh,
and,
undoubtedly, yeah.
and even just, it introduced some ridiculous mechanics. Like, a lot of people don't know this, but if you press A, like into the time of the beat of the song, you do more damage.
Really?
And that
What?
mechanic is fully fleshed out
I didn't
and
know that.
explicit in Mother 3. But it is, someone like dove deep and found
That's
that out.
awesome. Because that's like, because I said earlier, like it was a coin toss almost between Mario RPG and Earthbound for me.
Yeah.
And like that's one of the reasons I like Mario RPG so much is because like I had played RPGs, even Chrono Trigger at the time, and I was like, it just feels like I'm rooting through menus. And
Yeah.
Mario RPG was the first chance where I was like, oh, I'm engaging in the combat still.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
the fact that you could do that with Earthbound as well is really interesting.
Yeah.
That's
And
cool.
it's still turn-based, but it experimented and played with new ways to sort of bring the player in. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Jeff Fava, number 1.
And was Link to the Past.
There it is.
Yep.
Kyle Hilliard, number 1.
Mega Man X. Does
Wow.
that surprise you? Or?
No, I guess I forgot about it.
Yeah.
I was really trying to think if you were going to throw a curveball.
No, I mean, I still I have played Mega Man X like once a year for like decades at this point.
Yeah.
I love that game. Like I when I applied to Game Informer, I put on my resume that I could beat Mega Man X in under 2 hours,
And
Just
yeah,
as,
they
like, a
actually
fun-
added a note that said, "We don't care."
Yeah. I don't know. It came up. It was a good joke. But yeah, the music, it was also one of those things when I played it, like, I would just, it's hard to explain because it is like, it's actually a surprisingly dark, like, idea if you look at, like, what the story is, which is kind of hidden. You know what I mean? Like,
What is it like?
well, it's like this world where, robots have become like just crucial to humanity. Like they need them for everything. And this virus rips through them and some of them turn evil. And like the whole story is like X has to like come to terms with killing his own kind in order to save humanity. Like,
Right.
And it's like that stuff doesn't really surface that much. But like if you read the booklet and like that's a big part of the ending. So like there was all like I really loved the dashing and the jumping and the gaining new abilities and like I liked all that stuff. But then like after I beat it and sort of saw that sort of like that story, like I would just spend so much time thinking about that world. Like it really I really like loved the fiction of Mega Man X in a weird
Just
way.
the X series.
Just the X series, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, which is it's so funny because I talk about X sometime. People are like, oh, so you like Mega Man? I'm like, nah, I don't care for Mega Man. It's the dash like just changes everything to me. Like, it makes it so much more fun and fast to move through those levels. But yeah, that game I still play it all the time. Like it's just like it's one that I'll just like I can get through it in like an hour and a half or 2 hours. So it's like, oh yeah, I've got my 3DS, I got it on my Switch now.
Right.
I just love revisiting that game, and like I want it to continue even. Like I would like to see more.
Was your
Mega
family
Maxes.
really into it too? Was your brother
me and
really
my brother
pushing it?
Tristan were like super into Mega Man X. Like that was definitely one that like we would see like. Work together to figure out the sort of bosses and their weaknesses and stuff like that. And I remember like I beat Armored Armadillo without using his special weapon, and like my brother came home from school and I was like, I did it, man. I did it while you were gone. I beat Armored Armadillo. And he was just like, no way. Like it was this thing that we worked together to complete, and it was just like,
it is weird talking about all these old games, how much like family comes up, like the importance of like cousins and siblings. Yeah,
and it was funny. We at a PAX on one occasion I went and saw Mighty Number 9, and and it was early, and I was playing the game, and I actually enjoyed it at the time because like there's some dashing mechanics in Mighty Number 9, and I remember like thanking them for showing me the game, and I was like, yeah, I really love Mega Man X, so like I'm excited to play this because I like X so much, and like one of the people who was in the room was like, oh yeah, I directed X2. And then it was like basically like the door closing. I was like, oh, I would have loved to talk to you about that instead of Mighty Number 9. Like it was just like this like on the way out the door. I'm like, oh thanks, I'm excited. I really love Mega Man X, so I'm looking forward to playing this. And they're like, oh yeah, X. I directed X2. All right, see you later. Thanks for stopping by. I was like, oh my god, all right.
It's the classic Capcom thing. There's just so much talent in there, you just forget. Yeah,
but yeah, Mega Man X classic totally holds up today. I adore that game.
Yeah, my number one. I guess it's kind of a recent thing. I think it's Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would have said that before playing through it for the deepest dive, but playing through that game again, like I loved it back in the day, but I'd forgotten so much. But playing through it now, and maybe it'll, in the final third, maybe it'll all fall apart and I'll remember all the flaws of Chrono Trigger, but playing through it, it's like, it is just so tight. Like the fact that the point people go to complain about Chrono Trigger is like, oh, that stupid race in the future in the beginning. It's like, if the worst part about this game is like a 40-second race that is not that bad at all, like I know it's a different gameplay mechanic and stuff that throws some people off, but that's just, I think it is a testament to how tight all the dungeons are, navigating is. And, you know, I was so enthralled by that new Final Fantasy VII trailer that I went and was traveling to New Orleans over the weekend and stuff. And on the flight, I played through up to the end of Midgar in Final Fantasy VII. And even playing through that, like as much as I love Final Fantasy VII, that game is a mess. And there are sections where it's like, what am I supposed to be doing here? Obviously, visually, it's all a mess. I'm just like, where can I navigate? And just playing through Chrono Trigger at the same time, that game is just, mwah. Like I know we've had a couple moments of, oh, there's a door over there that I couldn't quite see. It took a little exploring to find it and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just the perfect lesson in like just good sense of momentum in an RPG. And the number one is just the tone. The tone, the lighthearted spirit, that amount of sympathy that game has for every living thing in its world. And then also it's just like the perfect recipe for variety in an RPG of having time travel, of just no matter what, we're going to shake it up every couple hours, introduce you to more characters. Each character will have one of the greatest video game songs ever composed connected to them, you know, and just keep on plowing ahead. It's, if you want to hear us talk about Chrono Trigger for hours and hours and hours, you can check out the deepest dive over on our YouTube channel or in the Patreon audio feed. But there's a lot to dive into there. But yeah, it is my number one Super Nintendo game at this point.
It's a great game.
Also, I'd like to formally apologize to every fan of Final Fantasy VI out there. I feel you screaming. I love Final Fantasy VI, but I was really trying to search in my heart. It's like, I think I like these 5 games more.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy II, that's... 4. That's actually the Super Nintendo Final Fantasy that I played the most.
Oh, yeah?
Was that one, yeah.
Other shout-outs, Tetris versus Dr. Mario, Tetris and Dr. Mario.
That was almost my number 5.
Yeah.
I think I definitely played it more than Secret of Mana and probably a lot of those games, but it was... Yeah. But my love of Tetris goes so far beyond just Super Nintendo, which is why...
Right. Also, shout out to Lufia 2. Also one of my favorite Super Nintendo games that did not quite make the cut.
Yeah, we talked about Mario RPG a little bit.
Yeah.
I actually have a lot of love for Star Fox just because it was like mind-blowing. You know, great soundtrack there too. I also played a lot of Contra 3, the Alien Wars, which is like, the weird thing about that game is like you have side-scrolling levels and overhead like isometric levels that go back and forth, which is neat. And then I also liked Earthworm Jim a lot. I played that one a lot.
Of course. It's funny.
It's weird. Yeah. Which I was like into that like Earthbound kind of just subversive, like, what use the video game medium as a way to like tell jokes. You
Yeah,
know?
for sure. Hey, Super Nintendo, not too shabby, huh?
They did
Still
it.
one of
man.
the best.
Sweet. Anna, do you know how this whole thing operates? You know what fumes we're running on?
Yeah, I think so.
And it's a
It's a Patreon.
It's a Patreon. There we go.
There we
Patreon.com/MinnMax2Ns. That's what brought us all together. Thanks to everybody that supports us. You all are fantastic. If you support us at any level, you get access to the Discord, which is Shangri-La on the internet. It's lovely. The best people I've ever seen on the internet. And then also you get to leave a comment or question or topic for us to cover here on the MinnMax Show. If you're a $5 supporter, you get access to the show a day earlier if you're into that sort of thing. But we have some wonderful supporters that support us in a big bad way, including Hyperdot, which you're a little familiar with.
Yeah.
But this is a new game published by Glitch, so they say, check out Hyperdot, a minimal action arcade masterpiece with one rule: dodge everything. In addition to over 100 single-player levels, Hyperdot features couch co-op. Up to 4 players can drop in and do battle with friends to see who can survive the longest. Hyperdot, yeah, we actually streamed it yesterday. You can check out the Great Goaty Hunt stream. And multiplayer, I think, is the star of that show. Like,
Yeah.
I love single player just for having a good game to play and beat my head against the wall trying to beat all 100 levels while listening to podcasts and stuff. But the secret ingredient in the multiplayer mode is like having the randomized settings. So if you're looking for just like an intense 4-player co-op experience, or not co-op, but competitive experience, it's great because you say, okay, first to 10 wins and go. And then every level is just so fast and always varied. And Jeffem's always horrific every time, no matter what.
Definitely didn't win any tournaments yesterday.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those reminders of even the simplest concepts can be so much fun when you're playing with other people and you turn it into a competition.
Yeah,
And
just
we
trying to
had
dodge
a lot
shapes.
of fun last night.
Yeah, for sure. So check that
Without
out.
you, Kyle.
Yeah,
Oh, that's fine.
It was wonderful.
I tried to come.
That's true. It's a long story. Anyways, the point is Hyperdot's out now on Xbox One and then also on Steam. So check it out there. What kills me is like, Charles, a developer from Tribe Games, he's been working on this game for years and years and years. And there's not enough user reviews on the Steam version yet for it to say like positive or overwhelmingly positive or anything. So if you do like the game, it would be awesome for you to leave a review on there because I do think it is a really fun game.
Yeah.
Also, get a load of this.
No.
How about we have some
Too early.
codes to give away for Hyperdot? So if you'd like to check it out, you might have a chance to win here. So hey, how about you tweet out this episode of the MinnMax Show? It can be the audio version or the video version. If you tweet it out and include somewhere in there hashtag Hyperdot, you'll be in the running to get a code. And we have an Xbox code, we have a Steam code, so either should work for you. So I'll just go through those tweets and randomize it in there. So tweet it out, and then we'll send a free game your way, which is pretty sweet. Superheroes, everybody. We also have a proud supporter here, Riley Hill from Superhero Cinema Scoop. He says, Superhero Cinema Scoop is proud to sponsor MinnMax. Superhero Cinema Scoop is a YouTube channel dedicated to bringing you all the latest news about upcoming superhero movies, shows, and video games. Stories from Marvel, DC, Image, Valiant, IDW, and many more are covered. Videos are uploaded at least once a week, and now there's a new audio-only version available on most major podcast streaming services. Superhero Cinema Scoop is the perfect all-in-one place for comic book movie fans, and remember that cinema is spelled with an S. Awesome. Riley uploaded videos recently with like the first impressions of Birds of Prey because those reviews are coming out.
Is it?
It seems
good?
like people are in the mode of like pretty good for DC.
I'm optimistic about that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to be. And then I read some of those early impressions though that are like, look, I mean, the main story is nonsensical and kind of dumb, but like, it's kind of charming and Harley Quinn's fun.
right.
So that seems to be the tone it's landing with.
Okay.
Okay. Anyways,
right.
he goes over those first impressions. Also, rumors about Emily Blunt maybe playing Invisible Woman. She had a meeting with Marvel, stuff like that. So
Who could ever know, though?
Yeah, that's a good point.
that's true. So check out Superhero Cinema Scoop with an S there.
Her husband almost played Captain America.
Well, that's the connection. Then he could come in as Mr. Fantastic. Like that's what people have been craving on the internet for a while. But we'll see if it'll actually happen. And the most exciting thing, we have a brand new sponsor for MinnMax this month, and it's a big one. I'm very excited about this. We've been working on it for a little while here. I Am 8-Bit. If you're familiar with them, they helped out Game Informer in a huge way, and us during Extra Life. They shipped out amazing items to us, like the Cuphead vinyls went for like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. All that money was going to charity. So they're fantastic. They're a creative production company, an art gallery, just a cool, funky company with a lot of great stuff on their site. You can go through their store, look through what they have. They've worked with Nintendo, Capcom, HBO, a ton of huge companies just doing really cool collaborative projects, stuff like that. But they have a physical version of Kentucky Route Zero, a game that Serial obviously really liked. I played through the second episode. I want to keep going, or second act. I'm going to blast through it. But they have a physical version of that on PS4 and Switch, and they also have the soundtrack on vinyl. It's a great soundtrack, Kentucky Route Zero there. And they wanted us to stress that for more information on the Kentucky Route Zero products, please call 1-858-943-6579. This is now, it feels like a radio show.
Yeah.
But please, for more information on the Kentucky Route Zero...
Are we becoming part of the game
No.
way?
I'm just saying, for more information on this from 8-Bit, call 1-858-943-6579. And also just check out their site overall. They have so many amazing things in the store, like, the Cuphead vinyl, Last Guardian soundtracks, Uncharted soundtracks on vinyl, Lion King. They made like a legacy cartridge of that. Kyle, do you want to grab that, the Mega Man X thing? Physical versions of games like Inside, Grim Fandango, and most importantly here, you can use the promo code MinnMax at their store. You get 10% off your entire order, one use per customer. But check out what they have in the store. Enter the promo code MinnMax. You'll be doing us a huge favor.
2 N's, right?
That's right. MinnMax, promo code MinnMax. You'll be doing everybody a favor and send them some love because they do a great job. But the reason listeners and viewers should be especially excited about it is because of I Am 8-Bit's collaboration. We are proud to officially bring back Question of the Week. Woo. It's an old favorite, and it is now the official I Am 8-Bit Question of the Week for the MinnMax Show podcast. So if you're a Patreon supporter and you leave a comment or question or topic for us to cover on the show for the MinnMax Show podcast, there is a chance that if we deem your question the best, if it makes the show better, then we will honor you with the I Am 8-Bit Question of the Week and ship something out very nice. This week, it is the Mega Man X cartridge. How sweet is this, Kyle?
It's super sweet.
Yes, it's the re-release. This is actually a cartridge for Mega Man X with amazing box art.
Playable on a Super Nintendo, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. They have the yen sticker on here, which I think is an awesome touch.
That is nice.
And so every week we'll rotate through different things that we'll be giving away to the Question of the Week winner. So if you're listening to this and you don't support us on Patreon, maybe consider it. If you have something really good you think will make the show better, it's a cheap tier to be able to leave a comment or question for us to cover on the show. So again, thanks to I Am 8-Bit. And without further ado, let's get to these questions. Connor, first one, he says, hey, Ben and the cohorts. So in the terms of the Making the Show Better category, last week's discussion of Kentucky Route Zero made me wonder if there should have been a spoiler warning beforehand. Probably.
Fair enough.
Yeah, they did it on the Game Informer show, which I thought was nice. He didn't give too much away. There's some surreal elements. I think everybody knows that's going to be in the game there. But yeah.
He was excited,
Yeah, he's trying to get the point across about why it's a very cool game.
Yeah, I totally, I'm a very spoiler averse person as well, but what the things that Serial shared, it made me eager to continue, where I was kind of waning a little bit after that first chapter. But yeah.
But we also could have just said spoiler before he went into it.
We'll try to do that.
That's true. That's a good point. All right, Jeffrey Jones says, very important question here. What status ailment do you hate the most in video games? I hate poison. It is by far the most annoying to me. Poison drains your precious life, and sometimes all the time, at the most inopportune times, like one hit away from defeating a final boss. And to prove my point, it is the most annoying thing. Some games even have levels filled with nothing but poison. That's a good point, Jeffrey Jones. I think, for me, it's probably Confuse.
Yeah, I agree.
Is that just a Pokemon thing?
No, I mean, even right now playing, there's a confusion status in Dragon Quest XI, and I think it's the idea of maybe overcoming but not knowing and then getting denied. It's a roller coaster. I don't want to go through that.
Yeah, it is. Just having that another layer of unpredictability thrown in that mix, especially with Pokemon after so many years of hurting yourself in your confusion. Yeah. I'm so sick of seeing that phrase.
Yeah. Even outside of it happens in RPGs as well, but anything that slows down your walk speed tremendously.
Interesting.
I hate. I don't ever want to be slowed down.
Yeah. You combine that with the poison, you get a flashing screen while you're going slow. Now there's good video gaming.
Don't mess with movement, and then also just sleep of just now you just can't do anything is always annoying too.
Yeah, well, that might be an item in there for you. Good point though, Jeffrey Jones. Maybe games aren't good. Evan McHugh writes in and. I'm sorry for this, Anna. I'm sorry. This doesn't represent the classiness of our community. But Evan writes in and says, does WarCraft III Reforged being a stale fart make you afraid that Diablo 4 is going to be a fart? We mentioned this on last week's podcast about like at the tail, like people are kind of pissed about Warcraft 3 moving on, and now it is. I mean, that's all my YouTube feed is just like the outrage machine is fully aimed at Blizzard.
They didn't
again.
do a good job remastering it. Is that
It's
what's
a
going on?
complicated thing. So when they originally
didn't have all the Pokemon.
basically, no. So when they announced it at BlizzCon last year, and also it was the same time that I was actually in Blizzard for 2 days creating the cover story content for Game Informer for Warcraft 3 Reforged. But when they announced it, they said, we're retooling a lot of the story to be better in line with World of Warcraft's lore, stuff like that, redoing these cutscenes, all these things. And then they eventually walked back and made it public. They're like, actually, we're not going to redo the lore as much as we first planned. And then the crazy thing is they showed so much gameplay, and we played through it of showing like this very important mission within Warcraft 3 where, the camera was dynamic, they had close-ups, they're reanimating all the faces, and then in the finished version, it's just like basically locked off camera again while this important story content's happening. So they just dialed back the production values, it seems, in a lot of ways with it, and then also people are pissed about certain tech features, and most importantly, the fact that this Reforged version has replaced the old Warcraft 3 version that you could download. So you can't even get the original version of Warcraft 3 now unless
That's
you're
a bummer.
playing it off a disc.
Huh.
And so the fact that it's like aggressively invading people's memories with what people see as an inferior product at this point is really frustrating for a lot of fans. And then there's a lot of other little details in there too.
If you're someone who never didn't play it though, is this still like like a good version to play? Are there quality of life improvements that make it like a
like they changed the UI and stuff, which
Yeah.
I guess is a little bit, but it seems like they're erring on the side of making it more classic and not doing as much reinvention
Okay.
as they originally planned. But
Gotcha.
yeah, that was crazy being on that cover story trip because it was so early in development. Like we played it and we played the missions that were at BlizzCon and stuff like that. But then I remember talking to the writers and they're like, we're working on the first draft of the revised script right now. And it's like, wow, you think you would have done this before then. So I think this entire project was really coming in hot. There were a lot of ideas about like, we don't know exactly what we're going to be doing. I think we're probably just going to remake the first cinematic and leave it at that, which is what they ended up doing, right? But then even just dialing back the production values on the story, it seems counterintuitive to what they were saying because they wanted to be this kind of grand reinvention of, the pivotal moments in Warcraft 3.
Yeah, it could have been an opportunity to like revitalize the sort of classic RTS. You know what I mean? Like in the same way that like the Link's Awakening remake like got everyone like, Link's Awakening's great. It's like this new audience and like there's all these people like me who never really played RTSs like that. If it was really exciting, like it could have been a chance for me to be like, all right, let me check out this classic game under a new lens.
And you
like,
still can, it's not exactly as ideal. But what breaks my heart is just knowing that I really loved that classic games team within Blizzard. I thought they were really awesome. I mean, they did a great job with StarCraft Remastered. I know a lot of that was outsourced, and even a lot of the, they got a lot of art help from overseas with Warcraft 3 Reforged, they were saying. But they were expanding into a new building, and they're really like building out the classic games team. So it's shocking that it seems that the production values went so much lower than expected. Maybe they were pulled off. Maybe they're already working on Diablo 2 Remastered. You don't know. Like there were no hints of that when I was there, but that's the obvious next choice for remaking a classic game. So, no, I don't think it necessarily means, Eben, that Diablo 4 is going to be a fart. Very different teams, and this seems like a case of just the schedule budget got slashed in a huge way because, spending 2 days with those developers, like, they loved Warcraft 3. Like, this is, I'm sure, very emotional for them, the fact that it was released in this way. I don't think you can pull the lazy devs maneuver. I think it's just Activision or whoever slash the budget probably in a big bad way towards the end there. Which I guess
is kind of concerning for future projects as well. If it is something that they were so passionate about and they really wanted to do changes to it, if it was in Activision saying, well, okay, you got to get this out the door.
Yeah.
Don't spend any more money on it. Then
right.
I guess I'd be a little worried about Diablo 4.
Yeah, or maybe it's just we need to release Warcraft 3 Reforged, get it out the door so it can space things out so now we can actually take more time with Diablo 4. Who knows?
And hopefully the fact that it is a remaster versus the next big step in this series, they wouldn't do that kind of thing with Diablo 4.
For sure. Holden Hint says, hey, what pronunciation of a word have you never heard and only read, then to realize you've been saying wrong your entire life? I commonly correct people with Pokemon pronunciations despite the fact that I'm sure if I'm actually right. I've been pronouncing it Arcanine my whole life when I suppose Arcanine would make more sense. That's a tough one. I don't know. I've been saying Arcanine too. I assume everybody has.
You know what's funny? So, not to talk about my kid, which I know you love so much, but the thing that I read,
do love your kid.
The thing that I've been reading to her lately by her choice is just like Pokedex entries on Pokemon. She just loves for me to read the name of the Pokemon and like the entry, and I've just been going through all 800 of them. That's her bedtime story, and she is constantly correcting me on how to pronounce certain Pokemon.
What does she
names.
know?
The anime. Damn it.
There you go.
So it's like it's funny that the sort of impetus of this question comes from Pokemon, because I've been experiencing that every night for like months. I'm like, no, Dad, that's not how you say its name.
Oh no! Wait, do they stand out? Do you remember any of
No,
them?
I don't have any off the top of my head, but it's usually just like little like vowel sounds, like like that. But she's very particular.
Yeah, as particular as Jeffem is with me in the deepest dive when I pronounced it the Masamune.
Yeah.
I've been calling it the Masamune, the sword, my entire life, and then it's no Masamune.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for drilling that into my
Sorry.
skull. Other things?
I can't remember, but I'm sure there's names. I thought I had one earlier, but now I can't remember. So.
Yeah. It is tough just when you've been reading these things, especially in games for so long, like
Yes.
old games.
When you were gaming for a generation where it didn't have any kind of voices or spoken dialogue, then there was a lot of interpretation going on in there.
Like Final Fantasy VII, we did that deepest dive, and it's like, oh yeah, next town is Junin. And everyone's like, what? Junin? Everyone was just horrified.
It's not Sea Loud?
What do you mean?
Lara Croft instead of Laura.
It's a big one.
Yep.
That's a big one. Juan Rolon Jr. says, hello, MinnMax crew. I just wanted to send a quick shout out to BeatenDownBrian and Wes Bates, who put me onto you guys back when episode 0 came out. Oh, that's sweet. Not so much a question, but a comment regarding the PlayStation screen share feature you spoke about last week. I never thought I would have bothered using it myself, but funny enough, I've needed it multiple times to help my father with a few games he got stuck on. Between Horizon Zero Dawn and God of War 2018, it saved me a lot of time trying to troubleshoot where he was stuck at over the phone. Just getting him to set it up properly is a chore for sure, but it gets the job done. That's a good strategy.
Yeah, that's very smart.
Greg Flemiqueso Griffith says, Dear cohort and the computer-loving Benjamins, sure. What was the first musician or band you ever saw live, and how was it? Anna, do you remember this?
Yeah, the first band that I saw live, this is just stereotypical liberal arts student. I saw Alt J live. They did the album, like they had a couple of hits.
I love Alt J.
Yeah.
There's like the newest, like in terms of like recent music. I don't know that I've gotten as excited about a band in recent years.
I like that you're like, it's the first concert I went to, and he's like, oh, it's that recent music.
It is. I mean, it's like what, like 4 or 5 years ago they came on the scene.
Yeah,
I guess you could say.
I went like the first semester of college.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would line up the timelines.
Were you also surprised by the way that the singer looked? Like, I watched a video of them live, and I was like, all right, that guy's the singer, and then this guy over here started singing, and I was like, what? Oh, okay.
It was a Halloween concert, so they were dressed in costume.
Okay.
It could have been someone completely different, lip syncing. We would have never.
It might not have even been them.
Yeah.
All right.
You never know. Do you remember, Kyle?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was Papa Roach
Yeah, baby.
with their opening act was Alien Ant Farm.
Oh, man. Is this like, wait, opening act? So it was before
They
their
hit,
cover?
man. It was
Really?
Yeah. In fact, I will always remember it. I really thought it was funny because it was like a Papa Roach show, and they're like, "Hey, you guys like Michael Jackson?" And everyone was like, "No, no!" And they were like, "We don't care. We're gonna play a Michael Jackson song anyway." And then it was fun. So.
Weird. Okay, so they were touring with it, but it was before they released the music video, which lit up the world.
I think I went and bought their album like within the week. I went and found it at my like local record store,
Right.
but it wasn't. And then I started seeing like music videos on MTV and stuff. So I felt very ahead of the curve. I felt very cool to be in early on Alien Ant Farm.
I remember thinking they were very cool, but it turns out I just liked Michael Jackson at the time. And then I remember,
cover.
was it their follow-up music video? It was like at the movies. It was
Yeah.
like, it sucked. And then I realized, like, oh, maybe I don't like Alien Ant Farm at all.
They're a great drummer though.
Oh, okay, all right.
Mine was Nine Inch Nails when they did their Fragile tour.
See, that's a good answer.
Come
That's
on,
a really
cool
good
guy.
answer.
And that, like I said, that was my first concert experience. But as far as first concert experiences go, like they had huge, like TV screens, that was in sync with all the music, and like I'm sure Trent Reznor like makes all the videos himself to figure out how it will go with the music and stuff. But that was and my brother got me the tickets for my birthday for that, and so we were like in the front kind of mosh pit section, so you are just squeezed in with people the entire time. And it was a crazy experience. I couldn't hear for like 3 days afterwards, but it was worth it.
Are you a big Nine Inch Nails guy? Like, are you a fan, or was it just a cool concert to go to?
Yeah, like the Downward Spiral and then that album, which I just got on a whim. Like, I was driving somewhere and they announced, because I hadn't like followed the band or anything, but I had heard on the radio they were like, yeah, Nine Inch Nails just put out a new album. It's a double album and it will blow your mind. And so I just drove to Target and got it, and it blew my mind.
That's awesome.
That is still just a crazy album, and like I said, a double album, and as an experience, like, that was super crazy. That was also at a time when you actually listened to albums on CD players and you weren't doing like 5 other things while you were doing them.
Yeah,
and so I just
read the liner notes.
Sat in my bedroom, with the liner notes, listening to just that, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
And the concert was just as good.
In New Orleans, I went on a tour of the Garden District, like a walking tour.
Wait, this was your first concert last week?
Yeah. Wow. I think I taped you about this on Instagram. But the tour guide's like, oh, this house over here, this is John Goodman's house in New Orleans. I was like, oh, pretty cool. It's like, John Goodman bought this house from Trent Reznor. It's like, what a weird house.
Yeah.
I want to own that thing now.
I would have liked to have been there when they handed it off.
You know, at some point,
the keys.
Oh, yeah. I assume Trent Reznor gave a tour of the house to John Goodman. Yeah. I was really thinking about it. Like, it's probably something like, I remember seeing Johnny Lang with my parents, on some trip when I was young. But like the first one that like I traveled to the cities, which is like a 2-hour drive. I don't think we talked about it. But I'm from like West Central Minnesota, like New London, Spicer. I don't know if you know that whole thing. Wilmer, if you heard of that.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
The famous town of
Everyone's talking about Wilmer.
No, but actually I do know Wilmer.
Oh, good.
So, yeah.
Oh, good. But so drove to the cities. I think it was probably, I was trying to do the math here. I think it was for Sparta, and I think it was for their Porcelain album. So it was like 2004. So it would have
their
been
second album?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one that wasn't as good as the first.
That's
album.
right. Yeah, you remember it well. But I like their third one.
Yeah, I bought that second one like they came out. And I was like, that seems, I'll go back to the first one.
Yeah, but it still was at the Quest in downtown Minneapolis. That was really fun.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, man. I thought that was really cool, too.
My concert was lame. You guys had cool ones.
That's right.
I did see Nine Inch Nails eventually, for what it's worth.
That's fine. That's fine. Yarrow says, hello. I've been looking for a good sci-fi RPG to play since finishing Chrono Trigger. What are some of the best sci-fi RPGs you'd recommend?
Gosh.
What? You gonna cry?
Yes. No, there was it was on Genesis, I think is kind of where it found its footing and it was popular. And it like
Phantasy Star?
No, well, yeah, actually Phantasy Star is a good answer, but there was Shadow. They made a first person competitive first person Shadowrun. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you play that back in the day?
No, I just know people really like it, and it's sci-fi.
Right?
Okay.
All right. I love Star Ocean 2 on the original PlayStation. They remade it a little bit for the PSP. But I think I know they remade the first Star Ocean recently, so I hope they get to Star Ocean 2 sometime soon, because I think that game was still a hold up. I think it's really cool. Stud Muffin, what is the last book you read or are currently reading? Or what is a book you would like to read? Seems like he just wants us to talk about books. Is anybody reading anything interesting?
I'm reading a book called How to Do Nothing. And I'm really enjoying it.
What's the premise?
Well, it's kind of simple. It's about how to do nothing. It's basically just it's by an artist, and it's sort of, I'm in the middle of it right now, but she's sort of talking about how to sort of unplug, in the modern media age. But it's also like about connecting to people and connecting to nature. So it's just sort of chock full of these really neat ideas, like listening to what's going on around you, rather than like, even if you have headphones on, like practicing deep listening, like hearing everything, like the fan, maybe the birds, maybe the heater, just, yeah.
Wait, but you said even if you have headphones in?
Yeah.
So people listening to this podcast now.
Yeah, they should pay attention to what they can hear in addition to the podcast.
Should we give them a moment of silence?
No, we're going to keep talking.
No.
It's called multitasking.
Yeah.
It can't be that hard.
But it's really good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I got a couple books on Minnesota history that I've been trying to go through. And at some point, I think I just need to pull the plug and be like, I'm not going to get through this. I just need to put it away. I'll go back to reading some boring political book or something.
I think the last book that I sat down and was like, all right, I'm going to read this through was David Sedaris' last book, which is fantastic. I love David Sedaris. And then also, once I'm tired of reading Pokedex entries, I move over to Lord of the Rings, which I've never read.
And you're reading that to your daughter?
Yeah, it's great at putting her to sleep.
Does she like it at all?
No. It's just.
What are you doing?
It's for me. If I'm going to sit there and read Pokemon entries for a little while, I can read a couple pages of Lord of the Rings out loud till she falls asleep.
Huh. Okay, so you read Pokedex entries and you say, now let's shift over to this one. Does she go like, oh, more food descriptions?
Yeah. Oh, they're still walking? They're still walking?
Yeah, what's interesting to you about that book? What stood out?
I mean, I don't know, man. It's tough to say. Like, I haven't found it particularly interesting yet. It still is just a lot of people walking around through the woods. Like, that's what it is so far, you know? Yeah. But it is, I guess the one interesting thing is, like, knowing the films reasonably well, like, to see the sort of, you know, different perspectives on, like, oh, this is that scene from the film where they're hiding, you know, under the tree and stuff.
Right.
Except it's 30 pages long.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
What a thrill.
I hope I get excited about it and get into it. It's not my first stab at trying to read through that series.
Yeah. Brooks, Michael Williams.
I think Jeff. Didn't you?
I had something to say, but you were going on.
Hey, I'm going to keep plowing ahead unless somebody jumps in.
Yeah, it's a book called Game Tech, which is about board game design, and it was kind of adapted from a segment on a podcast, and so it jumps around to a lot of different design-centered ideas that go into board games, but also talks about kind of science and math behind it and stuff, and it's been very interesting.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There it is.
Game Tech with a K instead of CH, if you want to look it up.
Got it. Brooks, Michael Williams says, hey, Tanning, Chatham, and the CLCs. Sure.
Yep.
Would love to hear your takes on the Platinum 4 and the Wonderful 101 Kickstarter. I backed it for the physical Switch version, thinking it'd be an uphill battle, but Platinum's crowdfunding plans have hit the ground running. Any interest on your side of things? What game in the Platinum 4 would need to be revealed to get you more interested? Okay, have you guys been following this saga? So Platinum has been teasing the Platinum 4, and then they launched a Kickstarter for a port of Wonderful 101, and it's interesting because it's like, okay, at $50,000, we'll bring our Wii U game Wonderful 101 to the Nintendo Switch, and then upping it, we'll bring it to the PS4, bring it to PC, stuff like that. It's just weird that it's like $50,000 for the port to the Switch. That seems very cheap.
Yeah.
It's an odd strategy.
Is that just like a bonus of...
I don't know.
Because you can't develop it for that much, but they must just figure they'll make the cost up and then, or $50,000 will cover the cost, or is it just a way to get $50,000?
Well, they're getting a lot more than $50,000. Like, it's doing really well. I think it's well over like 1.5 million at this point, something like that. There are a lot of Wonderful 101
so
fans
then it was
out
a
there.
good idea.
I think it was a good idea. Yeah. It's just weird for a game that I thought Nintendo published to now go to crowdfunding to try and bring it to other platforms, but it's cool. I'm excited. I would love to see like a port of Metal Gear Rising on current gen.
Oh, yeah.
I think they'd be a really likely candidate if they do more. If that's what this Platinum 4 is hinting at. Seems like people are confused about what it is.
So the idea is it's probably games that have already released.
Maybe,
right?
yeah.
Okay, they're even back on that angle.
Who knows? Victor Pham says, hey, with the recent release of Tokyo Mirage Sessions on Switch and Wonderful 101 now coming to other platforms, is the Wii U finally dead? Yeah, I think it happened a while ago.
Yeah.
Are there any other Wii U exclusive games that are worth playing? So what's still trapped on that system?
Yeah. Earthbound.
I guess you're right. Yeah,
Just
yeah,
bring the
you're
entire
totally
virtual
right.
console over. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the virtual console is great on there.
Yeah.
Mario Run in Nintendo Land.
Mario Chase.
Mario Chase.
Yes,
excuse
specifically.
me.
And that wouldn't, I guess you need like a phone or some other way
the
to
camera
navigate
isn't
that.
integral, but it's like a fun extra layer to that.
But just to have a private screen. Oh, I guess you could do it with like,
You can get a couple
on the
switches,
Switch.
but I played that as recently as like a year ago.
Yeah.
With the kid, and it's like that game's super fun.
It's
so
still
simple.
awesome. Yeah, we played it at Extra Life. It's still great.
Yeah.
I know it's on other platforms, but I still think the Wii U version of Rayman Legends is really special. I think it's the best version of that game. Just to have the touch controls on the gamepad like that is really cool.
Is Legends on Switch with touch controls?
But even then, I can't imagine. Do you think?
It might be.
All right, I'll look this up. You guys go for other ones.
I just had one, but
3D World, obviously.
yeah, 3D. Actually, that was it. Yeah, Super Mario 3D World. I would like both the Zelda HD remakes, which like that sort of isn't really a Wii U game, but like I would just like to have Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. Yeah,
I think Wind Waker would crush on Switch.
People
would buy it all over again.
More so than Twilight Princess. Like, significantly. Yeah. I would. I would like to see them like take another look at Star Fox, and maybe tweak the controls and see if anything can be done with that. Because like, it's like I don't know. That game is weird. I played and beat it, but I
think they could revamp it.
Yeah,
I think it's possible to salvage that game, right?
To just tweak the controls a little bit, or even keep them consistent. But like I don't know. I think that game's like I don't think they want to revisit that.
Yeah, Affordable Space Adventures. That's a fun game.
Yeah. That would work with touchscreens. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Okay, Jacob
Zombie
Geller.
U.
Oh, Zombie U.
Right.
They already did, I think, release it on this stuff.
God.
Yeah.
Remember, it's called a Zombie. Jacob Geller says, "Hey, y'all. Recently, I was up in your lovely city and decided to brunch at one of my favorite places in Minneapolis, the Birchwood Cafe. I've been there 4 times, and every single time I've ordered the same thing, their, quote, savory waffle, which is about as beautiful at breakfast as I can imagine. Are there any other restaurants in other cities you feel an attachment to and or get the same order every single time?"
Okay, this is funny because I used to work at Birchwood.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What'd you do there?
I was just a server, yeah.
Oh, that's
I would do a
awesome.
little of everything, yeah.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
So this is kind of like strange.
Is
to
the
me.
savory waffle the way to go?
Yeah, it's really good.
I gotta check this out.
Yeah.
Where is Birchwood Cafe?
It's in Seward.
Oh,
So
okay.
on 25th Street and like 31st-ish.
Perfect.
It's close to the river.
Okay.
Yeah, and the highway.
So all the listeners in Australia, head over to Seward neighborhood.
Seward neighborhood.
That's so tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the thing of getting the same order every time, even if it's not another town, but I will always do that with
Yeah.
any restaurant I go to. I'm very stubborn. Like Chimborazo is one of my favorite restaurants in the cities, and I will just get Churrasco de Res every single time.
Yeah, and I have a habit of doing that, and anytime I try to get out of it and I get something new, it's like, well, this isn't as good as the thing that I always get.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Just stay in your rut,
creatures of
everybody.
habit.
Quit
Yeah.
experimenting.
Ruts are good.
Do you have a weird guilt for ordering the same thing? Because I definitely feel that
Yeah.
too, even though I do it.
Oh, yeah. Remy Bach says, I'm currently playing through Witcher 3 and Dragon Ball Z Kakarot at the same time, and I came to realize I was using Kakarot as a more lighthearted break from the darker story of The Witcher. Do you guys ever find the need to have a lighthearted game on the side like that? What's the strangest combination of games you've swapped between? I don't know about like the lighthearted thing, but I do like having the weird duos. Like it is weird to play Kakarot at the same time as Chrono Trigger just to have the Toriyama overload. But I do like having like a serious, bigger story game. Even now, it's like genuinely I'm playing Kakarot for like the bigger RPG experience. And then it's like, and then Hyperdot's good when I have like 30 minutes and I just want to listen to podcasts and just blast through these levels, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I angrily put down Ninja Gaiden on Xbox and went and got Parappa the Rapper 2. It's just
What?
I was so angry at Ninja Gaiden because it was so hard, and I was like, I just want something like fun and light and easy. And like I beat Parappa the Rapper 2 in like one sitting, and I was like, that's exactly what I needed. I'm also playing, which is weird, Journey to the Savage Planet, which I'm really enjoying.
Oh, good.
I like the game a lot. But I'm also playing Metroid Prime at the same time, which is weird because there's a lot of overlap there. They both have like scanning, and although Journey to the Savage Planet doesn't have a map, I wish it did because I think it would put it even closer to Metroid. But it's like it's that same deal of like you see something, you need an upgrade to get through it. Like so, I'm going through it on like 2 different tracks on 2 different games
And which
on
game's
2 different
better?
alien worlds. Oh, Metroid Prime.
Is that right?
Yeah, but I like Journey to the Savage Planet.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Are you gonna keep playing it, Jeff?
Yeah, I want to. Right now it's all Chrono Trigger whenever I get time to play games, but in a week that won't matter
Be
anymore.
liberated.
So,
Deepest
yeah.
Dive ends. Yeah. How is Metroid Prime overall, Kyle? Going through it again.
I'm playing it with Wii motion controls because that's weird. Why not? But I think it holds up really well. Like tone and like music and everything. Like some of the sort of visuals are like that's about like the textures on certain like plants and stuff look maybe like a little rough, but in terms of like design, like it holds up great. Like if it doesn't feel like an old game to me. You know?
For sure.
And I hope that rumored port for Switch comes out. I would love to like play. I'm playing it. You know, I'm streaming Metroid Prime. I would love to play Metroid Prime 2 on the Switch. It's like how I would probably approach it.
Yeah, definitely. I saw Alex Hutchinson, who's a creative director over there at Typhoon on Journey to the Savage Planet. He just had a very nice tweet where he said, life highlight, watching my son laugh and play a game we made from absolutely nothing. It doesn't get much better. It's like a very nice, it was almost like my get a load of this. Like, that's such a nice message. And especially the part that kills me is the game we made from absolutely nothing. And maybe it's nice too now thinking of like MinnMax. Like, it does feel good to just build something up that doesn't have to exist. Everything's optional, right? And they just busted their ass and out of their way to make this new experience.
Yeah,
Journey to the Savage
also
Planet.
for it to not be a sequel for him to like this series that has gone on forever. Yeah, just
especially coming off Assassin's Creed 3 and a Far Cry 4, you know? And like, yeah, it's a weird thing where I was listening to some other podcasts. I'm not going to point fingers, but some people that were just like, kind of bashing Savage Planet, or kind of giving it a meh. And I think that's totally fair. I'm not saying you need to kiss the game's ass because it's original IP from an indie developer, no longer indie, but they were at the time of making this game. But it's like, yeah, tip of the cap at least. Don't change your perspective of the game, but it's worth noting, like, oh, this feels like a special little thing the industry managed to create. So worth celebrating. Muffin Crumbs, okay, says, hey, did you all play The Evil Within 2?
I started it.
There it is. Well, in it, there's a mini game where you have to shoot blocks of different colors to get a multiplier and earn as many points as possible. I don't think I've heard anyone talk about this mini game. Most importantly, I've never heard anyone talk about the line that Sebastian says after he fails to get a high enough score. Apparently, there's this mini game, which looks bizarre. You're like shooting out blocks, and when you fail it, the main character in the game references that Hercules meme, and he goes, "Disappointed!" It's like such a weird thing to put in Evil Within 2.
Anyways, it's scary, man.
Yeah, no question. He says, when my fiance and I discovered it, we laughed so hard, and I thought for sure that it would become a meme from Evil Within 2. Kyle, I'm sorry, do you want to kick something under the table?
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that sounds good, Muffin Crumbs. Maybe we should go back to Evil Within 2 after all.
Yeah, Cyril reviewed that one. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He wasn't a fan.
No, yeah.
It was like 7 something. Eric Smith, when doing menu selections, do you guys prefer to use the analog stick or D-pad? Tough one, man. Tough one. I'll usually swap it around, but prioritize the D-pad.
when I'm going for efficiency, that's when you go D-pad.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't mind a little extra thumb movement.
A little loosey-goosey. That's fine.
We had the analog stick can be problematic. One time we did a Call of Duty video at Game Informer, and as I was going through the menus, I accidentally turned on like colorblind mode, and that was like we didn't realize it because I was just scrolling through the menu, and it just sort of like is just just enough of an angle where I accidentally turned it on, and so like we posted the video. It was like just like, hey, here's some gameplay from new Call of Duty, and everyone was like, why are the colors so weird? Because it was like purples and stuff.
Oh no,
I had no idea.
Always use the D-pad, everybody. Eric Smith says, P.S. Would you guys ever work with Tim Rogers from Kotaku?
Yeah.
He said some very nice things about the Rabbit Fire interviews, I think, at some point, right?
Yeah, I DM with Tim a fair bit.
Really?
Yeah. He's, I don't know how. Oh, because we both love Shadows of the Empire so dearly. But he's leaving Kotaku, and some people tweeted us that, like, hey, we should have him on, so.
Oh, you do say that. Yeah. Would you ever work with him now that he's not at Kotaku? Yeah. We're open to it.
I'll, jump into that long-form DM conversation we've been having about Shadows of the Empire. I'll get him on here.
That sounds good. King Prometheus says, howdy, Ben and friends. When was the last time you absolutely got absorbed into a game? Like the one more turn from Civ games, it ended up going into 4 a.m. in the morning. The last time you looked at the clock and were shocked.
I was playing Towerfall with friends like a couple weeks ago, and it wasn't the first time I played. I've been playing it for a while, but when you just get into a zone and you're with friends and you're like, yeah, just exactly that. Looked at the clock. It was 3:30 a.m. We all had stuff to do the next day.
Oh my God.
But what can you do?
What settings do you go for in Towerfall? Like what are the modes, options in there?
Okay, there are so many like modifiers, stuff to change in that I don't even know. Like usually we just do like straightforward classic and do it based on kills, not on wins.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. God, it's been so long since I played the game. I loved it so much. But the one I love is where you have limited ammo for the bows. Like it's just one shot, and then if you shoot when you don't have an arrow in your bow, you die.
Really?
Which is I mean, that's probably another option there, but I
Yeah.
love that. Just like super limited ammo,
Yeah.
super careful. And you need to know exactly what you have because if you don't have it, you'll just annihilate yourself.
You know, I should hit up the Discord because there's so many settings in that I
Yeah.
just don't even know the best ones. Yeah.
For sure.
We should do more streams of just couch co-op games.
Yeah, it turns out they're really fun, yeah. Let's see. We have Jeff Enright saying, in the gaming experiences you've had, what has brought you the best feeling experience? It's a broad question. He says, as an example, something I'll never forget is playing Guitar Hero 3 and successfully playing through the song Cliffs of Dover by Eric Johnson. It made me feel like I was actually playing the electric guitar. Do you guys have go-to? You can't say Sekiro anymore, Kyle. That's checked off the
I'm not
list.
allowed?
You can't keep bragging about how you beat that game.
I beat Limbo in under 5 deaths a couple times.
Okay.
That's pretty exciting.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Mine was The Witness because it had that final challenge that was actually timed, so it was much more intense than anything else.
And you couldn't.
leading
It's
up to
not
that game.
It's not like you could look up the solution either because it was randomized.
It was
right?
randomized
Yeah.
every time, yeah, and it was a lot of trial and error and thinking this is just never going to happen, and it's the last thing that I have to do in this game of 700 puzzles or whatever. And then when I actually miraculously pulled it off, it was a huge achievement.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Daniel White. Hey, I know this is dark and you all like to keep things positive at MinnMax, but it's something I keep thinking about. Have you guys ever dealt with depression or anxiety? Being a games journalist must be really difficult while dealing with those issues. How do you cope? Do you have tips for getting it out of your head or for getting out of your head and being more social? Love the show. Thanks. Keep it up. Thanks for writing in, Daniel. Yeah, I mean, college was brutal for me. Extremely anxious, really depressed. I was medicated for a while in college there. And I keep thinking about how did I kind of get out of that? By and large, I still think I'm pretty anxious, but depression's been better. But I don't know. I think my career really helped. And I know that's really tough advice, but I was thinking about getting to work at a TV station early on as a video producer, and it was something I was so excited about. And also because of that, it forced me to be more social. But it's okay, in order to practice my love of editing, I need to go out and film stuff. And to film stuff, I need to talk to strangers and film these, community events and stuff like that. And somehow that was a nice motivator to kind of snap out of that zone a little bit. But
Yeah, jobs for social anxiety in general, working retail in high school, helped me with that. Getting laid off recently was probably the most anxiety I've experienced in my life.
Oh, really?
Period. Yeah, and I think the sort of short-term thing that helped me with that was just being busy. I did the stream to give myself a scheduled thing. I was just cleaning a lot more around the house and stuff. Not sitting, even games and TV and stuff were tough for me for that period there, but just finding things to do that are a little more physical and working out a little bit help me. I'm feeling better now. So now I'm being lazy again, but
that's fair.
So that was helpful for me.
Yeah, it is just that way to kind of snap out of your own head, which I know is the big challenge. But I mean, a person once said, they've since been canceled, but a person once said, it's hard to be sad when you're helping others. And I always think about that. And it's it's uncomfortable. And I know when you're depressed, it's the last thing you want to do. But you want to just donate your time to charity. Just that feeling of joy of helping out with others and being on the same page, which I think is a huge struggle. When you're really depressed or really anxious, it's just I just can't get on the same page with anybody else on planet Earth. And I think that's a nice way just to have some sort of, even a short-term cause or goal, working with other people towards a very dedicated thing, I think would really help.
And also, I say it a lot, but getting off the internet as much as you can. Getting off of screens. And the other thing that I've found to be helpful is mindfulness, which sounds a lot like the book that you're reading.
Yeah, you should read it. It's great.
Yeah, of just and it is very much that getting out of your head and getting to a place where you're reminded once thoughts start coming in of just thinking of stuff in a non-judgmental way and kind of focusing on the people that you're with in that, whatever you're doing, and putting down devices and spending more time with real human beings helps a lot.
Yeah. It's so tough. It's so tough to say, just get out of your head about it. It's impossible,
yes,
right?
Yeah. And mindfulness, which is something that people can look up or read books like that. It is a very hard practice to get into because the thoughts just keep on coming, and it's something that you literally have to retrain your brain to deal with.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it can be a waiting game, just being patient with yourself and telling yourself, it's okay that I'm going through this right now. And it's not about immediately making things better, but about like practicing kindness to yourself every day,
Yeah, there's I think like Dan Harris, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he said at some point, which is an interesting idea, that when we hear our own internal monologue, that's the only voice that we don't get bored by. Like if we heard other people tell the same stories as much as we tell ourselves the same stories about how crappy we are, we would lose our effing minds. And it's so weird that like somehow we're immune from that when it's just our minds telling ourselves the same negative thoughts over and over and over again. It's never just like, just enough of this. Yeah. I'm so sick of hearing it. You're always eager to hear it again.
You don't think about that. And also, like, one thing that I've had to come to realize is I'm a judgmental person a lot towards other things that are going on as well. And like just opening yourself up to that, you don't think that that will have a negative impact on you if you're thinking, like, this is a piece of crap or this person's dumb or whatever. But like you're putting yourself in a mindset where you're judging things and unconsciously you're also judging yourself when you're doing those things. Like you're comparing yourself to everything else that you're judging, and that just gets exhaustive. If you can get to a point where you're kind of going against those initial things and trying not to judge things, like that helps with yourself too.
Yeah, for sure. Tim Conlon says, "Greeting to Ers." I don't like that yet. What are some times that the people at the table with you have made you laugh the hardest? My friends are pretty consistently funny, but there are always a few times that stick out when they've really gotten me. Also, welcome, Anna. That's nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, Anna, when did we make you laugh the hardest?
Oh, man.
Man, when you were talking about your town, Avon, earlier, that was slaying me. Anyway, sorry, I know this is a weird one for you, but
no worries.
I think of, with Jeffem, I think it was we're at E3 at some point, and you just did this physical comedy bit that I have never considered you were capable of. We were like flailing and walking up the stairs and walking down the stairs, and it was like looking at some silent film comedy genius.
I don't remember that, but
it was amazing.
I've heard rumors of this, that you're like an amazing physical comedian.
It was like
I never really
pratfalls
saw it.
on these stairs.
I thought you were bringing up a different E3 thing where I sat down on a sofa in a hotel lobby, but I fell out of it purposely, and like everyone laughed so hard that like the manager came out and he seemed like very upset of that, like what were these shenanigans that people were doing in our
Wait,
in
was
my
this
lobby?
more recent? Was it?
No, this was the murder hotel where we were. Yeah.
Yes, I remember this.
Yeah,
Yes,
where we were instructed not to go out. I think it was by the same hotel guy. He was like, "Yeah, don't go out at night. Just if you're gonna go out, make sure you have someone else because not a good neighborhood.
Thanks,
that your
GameStop
hotel
budget.
is in." Yeah.
Do you the one that I think of, maybe you'll remember it when I start explaining it. It was there wasn't that many people in the office.
Yeah.
This was at Game Informer. I hadn't been there very long at that point. And you were editing something, and you just asked out loud something along the lines of like, "What is that? What's that thing on a bike called?"
I said, Kyle, the hub of a bicycle tire.
Yeah, and that was it. Like, and then did I respond? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I think I said I wasn't sure, and then just like you didn't acknowledge me responding to you, and there was like, I swear, probably like 5 minutes of silence, and you had just gotten on the ground and like Solid Snake crawled all the way across the office under my desk and like grabbed my leg. I have no idea what the punchline was or what the goal was, but I laughed so hard because it was just I did not understand what was happening at all. Do you remember? You remember this? Right?
Yeah, yes. That also made me laugh a lot because what's funny to me, and this is a very stupid way of looking at comedy, but I think about it all the time, is what's funny to me is not doing that. It's the idea of, okay, somebody starts to ask the question, what's the hub of a bicycle tire called? And then they just disappear. So that was the idea, is like I started to ask this, then realized it was a stupid thing to ask, so then I just decided to go on the ground and crawl and hide for a while before
I think that was the
grabbing your
thing. You were
leg.
just like under my desk for like a really long period of time. Like it was almost like you'd been embarrassed about the question you asked,
Right.
and then I don't know. It just like I was hysterical laughing. It was just like because I had no idea what was happening.
You are very good at setting up situations where someone walks in on you and you're like doing something purposely trying to upset them or freak them out.
Yeah, that's really my specialty.
Yeah.
You mean like just waiting for you to come down the stairs and jumping out to scare you? Which I think we did like last week or something.
No, it was something else.
What
we
is
won't-
this?
I'm not going to say it because it was
Wait, where I set something up to scare somebody?
it was obscene.
Wait, what is this?
You're good at. You caught me on the stairs.
All right, that's inappropriate, Jeffrey. You
yes. or the time when I came in to do MinnMax upstairs. You're very good at those kind of situational comedy.
Now I'm truly like I should drop my coffee cup. I'm realizing all these instances where it's the same joke with Jeff over and over again. I was thinking of one recently. It's kind of in this vein where when I was with Jeff Cork in Japan on the Monster Hunter World Iceborne cover story trip, it was so absurd where we've finally landed, finally got to our hotel. He ran to the bathroom right away, and I noticed like, oh, there's a very dumb little white robe on the bed. And so like quickly like took off all my clothes and put the robe on and then like just sat in the bed looking at Cork, waiting for him to get out of the bathroom. And I was like, this is taking a while. Why is he taking so long in this bathroom? Then like a minute later, Cork comes out of the bathroom wearing the same robe that he was also in the bathroom. We both wanted to
Waiting
do that
for
joke
each
of
other.
just like, what if we just really got into these robes?
That's very
It
good.
was very good.
All right.
Bob Buell says, hey, is there a retro game you absolutely love but believe is lost to the annals of time? For me, Phantasy Star 4 is that game. While every retro Final Fantasy game is still lauded for different reasons, the only thing mentioned when its Sega's counterpart comes up in these conversations is either Phantasy Star 2 or Online. I don't think I've ever heard Phantasy Star 4 mentioned on any podcast. Didn't we just mention it earlier on this podcast?
There we go.
So what is that game for you that is lost to time, that never gets mentioned?
What was that game you said was your fifth favorite Super Nintendo game of all time?
Evo
Yeah.
Search for Eve.
That was a good answer.
It's definitely lost to time.
We're talking about it on a break. We're talking about the Satellaview games.
Oh, like literally lost to time.
Yeah, like the Super Nintendo Online Japan only. Like you could create your own avatar and play Link to the Past.
Well, they
with,
made like
an
a sequel
avatar.
to Link to the Past for it.
Yeah, but not in like a Between Two Worlds sense, but just like tweaking Link to the
Yeah.
Past a little bit. But yeah, there's like the weird stuff like music cues and everything like that. Like there's no way to see that stuff now. You know?
Yeah.
Mine, which I forgot about, but I finally remembered, was a game called, I think it was Onyx, Onyx, which was a Macintosh game, which I had played at a friend's house. But it was kind of like Marble Madness, where you're controlling a marble around these areas with the mouse, but it was just a very bizarre kind of puzzly game. But the other thing about it was that it had, it was like shareware, but it was supposed to come with an instruction manual, and the instruction manual would give you like passwords to figure out how to like get past, like once you got to level 10 or whatever, there'd be blocks that would have different, numbers and letter combinations on them, and you needed to have the instruction manual to get through it. And so when we were at GI, I was thinking that would be like an interesting weird game to do a feature on.
Yeah.
And so I found an emulated version of it, but then I also had to figure out where to find like someone had scanned the copy of the instruction booklet that had all these passwords on it, but it was and then I never got to do it because we got fired. So the feature didn't happen, but it was a very super weird, and even when I was trying to Google it, like it was very hard to find information on this game.
Yeah. I love those types of games. Like I was thinking about with this question, this game called Jungle Hunt, which I really loved playing on the Apple II. It was one of my favorite games as a kid. And then growing up, it's like, oh, wait, was it just like a Pitfall ripoff? Because it's pretty close to Pitfall. But looking at it, like they both came out in 1982. And so I don't think it's a Pitfall ripoff. It seems like an original thing where they were trying to rip off Tarzan.
Well, how far apart in 1982? Was it a few
Yeah, I guess
months?
they made games like in 2 weeks back
I
then?
mean, they could make them a lot faster.
It still could have been. Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, it was very good. I think they originally released it as like Jungle King, but then I guess they got sued by
the Jungle King.
By the Jungle King. This is slander. I never swung from the vine that way. No, because I guess it was like a Tarzan thing. But it's cool. You get to like swim underwater and stab sharks and stuff. I just played it actually, the arcade version, a couple of years ago, and still really like it. But
I played this version of Oregon Trail, but it was Amazon River.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to find anything on it since. Because I never played Oregon Trail, but I played the Amazon River version.
Yeah,
of
it was still
Oregon
made
Trail.
by Mac, like the same company that made Oregon Trail. They had like some weird spin-offs. I never played the Amazon version. Is it fun?
Did it look
Yeah, it is
different?
fun. Yeah, I mean, it looks completely different.
Okay.
Because it's completely, so it's a computer game, and it's not like, it's more sophisticated than Oregon Trail, but it's the same
really?
premise. Yeah. So it's like better graphics, like 90s computer graphics.
Yeah.
And you fish instead of hunt, and it's like, imagine if every mechanic in Oregon Trail was reimagined to be on like a canoe going down the river.
I want to play that at some point. That'd be fun.
It's fun.
Taylor Reinch, he says, Benny and the Boo Boos. No. Over the last several years, I've found that I have less and less time for games that I tend to bounce off of most new games that I play. Sorry, I'm botching these. My question is, are there any hobbies that you grew up being really into that you've had to put aside as you become an adult with more responsibilities? If so, what have you done, if anything, to keep up with them, even though you don't actively participate in them anymore? Thanks, and keep up the good work. I have to jump up to the $20 tier on Patreon for at least 1 month to talk to you guys for MinnMax. $5 a month for all the great content you put out, and the audio exclusive feed is a steal. Thank you for the plug, Taylor.
You wrote that last part.
I promise I did not. I did not. But yeah, the end of February, if you want to talk to us, we'll have another call-in episode of MinnFax for $20 supporters. Anyways, hobbies that you had to put away. Kyle, drumming? Is that the obvious go-to?
Yeah, I played a lot of music in high school and early college, was in a band and all that stuff. And then like, as you move out and like you have apartments and stuff, like I can't put drums in there.
Wait, you have a drum set in your house?
Yeah, I mean that was one of the reasons I wanted to buy a house. Other than like having a place to raise my child and all that. Like I wanted.
You have a kid?
I wanted a location where I could set up my drums. I don't play them as much as I'd like, but I look at them and it just makes me happy that I have a space for them. So yeah, music would be my big one, playing drums specifically.
Yeah, for sure. Chris Bartlett says, hey, a cashier at Circle K commented on my MinnMax t-shirt, and I got really excited. And I was like, you listen to MinnMax too? Then he got really quiet for like 30 seconds while I was paying, and he said, I've just played too much Final Fantasy to not know what MinnMax is all about. I hurriedly tried to explain to him what MinnMax 2 Ends was while my family tried to usher me out the door, but I'm pretty sure he just thought I was a nut. I tried. The end. Hey, thanks, Chris. We appreciate it. Yeah. It's like one time when I went to that coffee shop and I was wearing the Double Fine Adventure t-shirt, and I walk in there and he's like, hey, man, love the shirt. And I was like, oh, are you a backer? And he's like, a what? Are you a backer of the Kickstarter? He's like, no, man, I just love adventure as a concept. What? All right. It's impossible.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing wrong with an adventure.
I mean, who's anti-adventure? Also, in terms of that t-shirt, Chris, new merch is going to be coming to the store soon.
So was the cashier just a fan of min-maxing?
Yeah. Just aware of the concept of min-maxing, and so they're like, hey, nice shirt is a t-shirt promoting min-maxing.
It's an even weirder thing to get excited about and point out
hey,
in
man,
a podcast.
You go to Circle K and try and figure that
min-maxing.
out. Tom Blackburn says, what genres are popular in movies but non-existent in games? For me, I'd love to see a political thriller video game. Do any exist?
Political thrillers? The Mission Impossible games.
The Mission Impossible game on N64?
Yeah. With the impossible second level.
I wish a politician would have gotten involved to stop the release of Mission Impossible on N64. I mean, I'm sure there's some indie game example, right? But
yeah.
I can't think of political thriller.
I know like a narrative adventure game that maybe could be classified as a political thriller.
Okay.
It's called American Election, I think, and it's on itch.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I don't even know if that would count though. It's more of like a story.
Yeah, that's tough. Romantic comedies.
Oh yeah,
pretty few and far between. Even something like Florence, not really a comedy, you know.
Which is coming to Switch and PS4 soon.
Oh, that'll be cool. Yeah. I think on PC too. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking like I kind of like horror comedies almost like
like Shaun of the Dead,
like Shaun of the Dead or something like.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Which that might. I know there's like comedic zombie games, but like Shaun of the Dead, which was the example that I was thinking of, like Toes, goes in that middle line so well, where there are genuinely scary moments.
Well,
There are like Ghostbusters.
I mean, isn't Dead Rising exactly what you're talking about?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess I never find it scary though, but I suppose that's close, right?
Yeah,
like that's
yeah.
kind of what they're going for, where it is like moments of intensity, but then you're like dressed as a clown or whatever.
Right.
So yeah.
God, the romantic comedy thing is killing me. I mean, I think of Grim Fandango.
There's some dating sims could possibly fall into
Yeah.
that. So like Dream Daddy,
Right.
possibly.
Yeah, you're
it's
right.
like very rom-com-esque.
You're right.
I would say.
Yeah. Eric Seal says, as kids, what did you want to be when you grew up? How much work would you need to put in to make that your career path today? In 6th grade, I wanted to be a, quote, Star Wars idea giver. But with how
title.
big the franchise is now, it'd be at my depth. No, never give up. You can still be a
right.
Star Wars idea giver.
I mean, it's not that the sort of expansion of that universe actually makes it more possibilities. Maybe you could, write a comic
Yeah.
or work on a game.
yeah, Eric,
or,
they'll give you a
know?
Disney Plus show. Just
Wow, but
right in.
he specifically wants to be a Star Wars idea giver.
Oh, he
which is-
just wants
yeah.
to. Like he just wants to be like, you should do an Obi-Wan show.
Yeah.
and then call it a
Right.
day.
Which is a little
That
tougher.
sounds like a great
I
job.
guess if he has a Twitter account, then he can do that.
That's right. You should remake The Last Jedi.
Whether people will listen.
I wanted to be. We're all dumb as kids, right? I wanted to be a crayon maker. I remember that was my first thing because I think I watched I love drawing and coloring, and I watched a Mr. Rogers episode where they said here's how you make crayons. I was like, that's
You
my
could go
career
to the
path.
mall now and
I was
make
just
that
about
a
to mention
reality.
that. Yeah.
Excuse
The
me?
Crayola experience.
Yeah.
What? I
Yeah.
can make crayons?
Yeah.
What is the experience like?
You make crayons.
Would you melt down wax? What is this?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Oh, weird. All right. I got to do it.
Go do it.
My other one was when I got a little bit older, which I don't think made sense because I was a pretty shy kid, but I was like, I would love to be on Mad TV. Forget SNL.
Key and Peele?
I didn't even watch SNL. Yeah, but it was like, oh man, to be up on the big stage with the bright lights with Will Sasso.
Wait, so more Mad TV than SNL?
Oh, 1,000 times yes. I can't defend it, but as a kid, yeah, I
Huh.
would watch Mad TV and not really watch
So you're
SNL.
excited to see the woman that played Seer in Star Wars?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's her name?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
She's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I forget. But yeah,
There's
I mean,
no way of
obviously,
knowing,
he's
unfortunately.
very excited. Phil Lamar when he was in Metal Gear Solid 2 as
And
Vamp.
literally everything else.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to be an animator up until middle school.
Middle school, really?
Yeah, which is funny because I was never a great artist. My brother's a great artist, but I was never great at drawing. But I loved watching Disney animators work, and I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
But it was around 7th, 8th grade that I was like, oh wait, I don't really like drawing that much. I don't think this is gonna work.
Brother, can you just smuggle me some drawings and then I guess I'll animate them? I think you just wanted to watch more animated films.
Wait, hold on. Yeah, you're right.
It's completely different. Jeffem?
I wanted to be a pratfall comedian. So. Dream's still alive in there.
Anna, anything?
I wanted to be one of the trainers at SeaWorld because I grew up in South Florida.
Ooh, okay.
And so, now, we can't really defend that.
Yeah.
But that's a cool
Is that
gig.
an occupation that's been canceled?
Well, no, they still have, the dolphin
Yeah, I
trainers
guess they
and
have it.
stuff.
They're
Yeah.
veterinarians
there aren't
basically at this point, right?
any killer whales left at
Okay,
SeaWorld.
okay.
And I think SeaWorld's phasing out that entire program. Yeah.
Oh, good for them.
Just to reconnect everything in this episode, I saw my first dolphin show a couple years ago.
What'd you think?
I was crying. It
Were you in the
genuinely.
splash zone?
Oh, that's what it was. I put others in the splash zone because of my tears. No, but it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Those trainers were so good. And then what kills me is they literally blasted the Hook soundtrack, which I have such a soft spot in my heart.
Then
while
they started
these
playing the Donkey Kong Country 2 soundtrack.
I couldn't tell the difference. Yeah, while these dolphins were jumping around doing the cool things, and the trainers are the coolest people I've ever seen in my life. It was beautiful.
You told a story once about going on a helicopter tour and then playing the Jurassic Park theme.
Yes, not
and how
only that. Yes.
So that's what it takes for you. Is get some Spielberg music in there.
It's true. Yeah, I went on a vacation with my rich friend and his family in 9th grade, and I don't I don't even know this was a thing, but somehow we got in a helicopter that went on a tour of the Grand Canyon. And so, like, being in a helicopter, flying through the Grand Canyon, and we have headphones on, and they blast the Jurassic Park soundtrack. I was like, that's a good living. I tried to jump out of the helicopter because I thought, it can't get better than this.
But life found a way, and you're still here.
Right, because of dolphins and the Hook soundtrack, yeah. Chris Lopez says, have you ever made a suggestion or comment during a game preview that the developers acknowledged was a good idea and later put it into the game? Do you know of any stories like this happening? I think that happens a decent amount. It's tough to know what's actually a good idea versus just trying to kiss press ass a little bit and have like a wink and a nod to something that somebody from the press would recommend. But because it's always that thing of like, okay, the press sees a game, they see it for 30 minutes and say, oh, have you ever thought about doing this? The developer says, oh, good idea. It's like, the developer's been busting their ass for 3 years. Like, they probably thought of that at some point, idea. Right? Yeah. Yeah, I think of like on the Saints Row 3 cover story trip back in the day, they said that they had an idea for a weapon that they cut, which was the fart in a jar. And like, it just didn't make sense because it's like a jar and you can't see the fart. So like, how is that even a grenade type? Doesn't make any sense. And then, yeah, Dan Reichert in particular
made it
was
his
like,
mission.
Yeah, like, you guys got to put that back in the game. And then it was in the game. They did it. But then there was also on that trip, that was a weird one because I remember during the demo, they were showing us this new animation of how you can just run up and punch anybody in the game in the nuts. There's like a set animation for that. And it really tickled us, as you can imagine. And so at some point, it was discussed, and it was like, I think I said something along the lines of like, that's all you need to show about the game is just like show a second of someone getting punched in the nuts, just like a random NPC on the street, and that'll sell the game. And then they started joking around. This is THQ back in the day. They're like, oh, we should make a trailer that's just that. Like as a joke.
Yeah.
And it's confusing. I don't think it was 100% me, but like it was definitely at this table. It's like, no, seriously, you need to do this. You need to release that trailer. And so that was the reveal trailer for Saints Row 3.
I remember it.
It was like the big build up, and then just like the quick nut punch, then moving on.
Yeah, it was funny.
It was a classier era.
Remember when we went to do the History of Pokemon feature, you suggested they make a Pokemon game that was more open and had an open area that you could explore.
That is true.
That was you.
You take credit.
Yeah. I screamed at them and said,
Sword and
play
Shield.
Breath of the Wild more, you idiots. Yeah.
We also said they should release it on Switch, I think. Or it hadn't been announced at that point. Does
They
that
said
joke
they were
not work?
making the game on Switch. Yeah. Nick, Jeff, there must have been something that you recommended to a developer at some point.
It wasn't an improvement, but when I was when we went to Gearbox, I guess there was a random conversation where I was saying how much I hate people who spell Jeff Geoff, and then in a later preview for Battleborn, because I think we were there for Battleborn.
Yeah.
But the producer said, hey, we added an enemy boss it was a spider, but his name was Jeff spelled the stupid way.
And is that flattering or pandering?
That was totally pandering.
Okay,
yes.
yeah. Did you enjoy it? Did you like it?
Well, I wish I had enjoyed the game, but so
Sure.
that kind
Okay.
of brought it down.
Yeah.
If it was a game that I super liked, I guess I would have been like, hey, I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I guess I still do remember it, so
Yeah, it works.
it worked.
Nick DeFeo's wondering if we share birthdays with any celebrities. Nick DeFeo says, I'm both blessed and cursed to have the same birthday as Bungie Day. Interesting. I didn't know this because my birthday is April 15th, which is no good. It's like, I think when Lincoln was assassinated and the Titanic sank, it's just like a downer day. But apparently birthday-wise, I share my birthday with Emma Watson and Leonardo da Vinci. And I don't know who a greater genius is. It's really neck and neck.
So you were born the day Lincoln was assassinated.
Yeah, I crawled out of his
That's
skull.
what you're telling me.
Yeah.
And I was born the
That's
day
Ben's origin story.
that JFK was assassinated.
Yeah.
Just another coincidence.
Freak out! Do you guys have any special birthdays?
Mine's Festivus, as established by Seinfeld,
What is that day?
December 23rd.
Is it 23rd?
The Festivus for the rest of us.
That's nice.
Annette was born on September 11th, which was
This is Nick Gonzalez?
which ruins that for you.
Wait, ruins 9/11 for you?
Yeah, what's getting ruined?
Anyways.
ruins her birthday.
Okay, got it. Joe Halaska says, what is your cutoff for nostalgia? I was playing Dragon Ball Z Kakarot and realized that Dragon Ball Z, which I watched in 7th and 8th grade through early high school, is the last thing I consider nostalgic for me. Is that roughly the same time period stuff was cut off for you in terms of nostalgia? Is 7th and 8th grade? No.
No.
I think we established last week's episode. I'm nostalgic over like 2013 and like the reveal of
Yeah.
the PS4, but I don't know. Do you have a cutoff? Is it 7th, 8th grade? Later?
I mean, more and more. Sometimes it can depend on the media. Like, I'm especially nostalgic for music. So, I don't know. With games, I mean, I could probably be nostalgic for Wind Waker, maybe. But even that's, was pretty young when I played that. So.
Yeah, for sure. It was like 2003 when it came out. So, I mean, you were 8?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. It was...
I mean,
Don't do that math.
Nostalgia to me is just like a memory of like a specific period of your life. So like music from high school, elicits certain emotions. I mean, even playing games that like playing Portal 2 is like nostalgic for me because I have a lot of great memories of playing Portal 2. So I don't think there is a cutoff really.
Yeah.
I think the further you get away from it, like everything becomes nostalgia again at some point.
Yeah. Well, there has to be a cutoff. I mean, you're not nostalgic over things from 2 years ago, are you?
I suppose not.
No,
maybe.
but he will be in 10 more years.
Okay, so there is a window.
Yeah,
in
I guess.
In 10 years, you're going to do something and you'll be like, oh, we did this at Game Informer, and you're going to get all weepy about it.
But I mean, I'm even thinking like 2 years. Like I don't. When did Into the Spider-Verse come out?
2018?
Like that's one that's like I adored that movie, and even like now, even like a few years separated from it, like I see it on Netflix and I'll start it up and be like, oh, this is so good.
I think it
you know
came
what I mean?
out
But,
last year.
but I don't know if
Did
that's
it really?
Is
Like
that
early last
nostalgia,
year?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, is that nostalgia, or is that just like I just really
You
like
just
that
like
movie?
a good thing.
I just like this.
Yeah.
Come on,
Dude,
man.
it's a
We're all going to
fantastic
be
movie.
nostalgic about Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite thing is there are a lot of people my age nostalgic about the 80s, which we never lived through because of Stranger Things. And I don't know how that works, but it's definitely there. Like,
Yeah.
It's just that soundtrack.
They're
that's
nostalgic
the opposite
for
of that.
they're nostalgic for when they watched Stranger Things in their youth. Like that's the idea.
I guess it's kind of like us watching Happy Days, sort of, right? It's like I didn't live through the 50s, but it's kind of. But yeah, is that nostalgia? What is it? Or is that
I
just
don't
like
know.
it's just like looking back at a different time period and it's fascinating?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyways, speaking of nostalgia, Ian T. Clark says, hello, my retro game-loving cohorts. Yes, back when I was a young lad, there were no shortages of NES games based on a movie or television license. Many of these games were very bad, but they were all that was available at the local rental store, so you had to play them anyway. And dog darn it, they were...
Dog darn it?
And dog darn it, you were grateful,
right.
Ian says. One of the better games that come to mind for me is Willow, the game based on the 1988 high fantasy movie directed by Ron Howard, starring Warwick Davis and Val Kilmer. Capcom developed the game, and it was a straight-up Legend of Zelda clone. Sadly, I never beat the game because it was too hard, and I couldn't afford those 900 call-in tip lines. Did any of you play Willow as a kid? Jeffem, you're old like me. Surely you at least saw the movie.
I saw the movie for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love Willow. Willow was one of my favorite movies growing up, even though it was terrifying. It's one of the moments that dragon at the end is too much. You ever seen Willow?
Sounds familiar. I think it might have been there's like a group of movies that my parents forced me to watch as a kid, like specific sci-fi and hero stuff.
Yeah.
And it might have been part of
Willow's in that batch? That's
I don't
fun.
know.
I think it's on Disney Plus now.
Maybe I'll watch it tonight.
Yeah. I watched it for the first time like a year ago. I'd never seen it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny because I also watched it a year ago because it was bizarre, but I was dating this person and they're like, oh, I played I guess we had an NES back in the house, but I only really played Willow. Like, it was the only NES game that I had. I was like, what? Like, I didn't even know there was a Willow video game, but then went back and watched that movie again, too. And it's so weird watching that movie. Speaking of nostalgia, it's like, oh my God, I forgot about so many things. I forgot about the character Sorsha. It's like, I was so into her as a kid, and I completely forgot about what a badass she is.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
That Willow game, by the way, like we played it on an episode of Replay, Game Informer.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of on a whim, like expecting crap. And I think like if you go back and watch that episode, it's very much of us being like, this is really cool. Like, this is impressive.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, they made an arcade game, and that game's also not bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I actually on our like sort of bonus list of like games I played a lot for Super Nintendo that I have nostalgia for. One that was on my list was that wouldn't have made my top 5, but it is Aladdin for Super Nintendo. Like it's a solid Capcom platformer.
Is
Yeah, for sure.
that also on Sega Genesis?
Yeah, that was there
yeah.
were 2 very different versions.
Okay.
The Genesis one has like the amazing animation.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
played it on the Genesis last year. I was like,
Oh,
wow,
wow,
this is
yeah.
so impressive.
It looks great. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Super Nintendo version, I mean, I think maybe is like a little bit cleaner of a platformer. Like it's a Capcom platformer, so I think jumping is a little more fun, but like you can't deny that the Genesis version just looks so much better. It looks like the film, which is crazy.
Canadian says, during the holidays, my good friends did a thing where one person leaves, then those remaining in the room have to discuss and decide the best attribute of that person. Once deliberations are over, the subject tries to guess what the group decided. Then the group reveals their answer. What are the best attributes of the MinnMax crew? Sorry, Anna, I know this is tough for you again. But... All right, Jeff, do you want to leave the room and we're going to talk about your best attribute and then you're going to try and guess? And no jokes. You can't say pratfalls. You can't say your stunning good looks. Right. Okay, great. Okay, you guys are going to figure out. We got to figure out Jeff's best attributes. I think I know where I want.
Sense of humor? Should I whisper more?
Good whisper.
I just met him.
Yeah, what do you think it is?
What's your
You're getting a
favorite thing
fresh
about him?
take on Jeff sensibilities.
A live reaction.
MinnMax
so
reacts.
MinnMax reacts to Jeff.
Those are some of the videos that do some of the best.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? Oh, do you have something?
No.
Okay. What?
Sorry, please relieve me here.
I was thinking he's a straight shooter. He's got a level head. You know?
Yeah.
I can see that.
He calls them like he sees them. No drama.
Yeah.
So what's that attribute called? Straight shooting?
I think it's
Straight shooting.
Straight to
You got it.
Straight to it.
Jeff, you want to come back in?
Oh, he left.
He's gone. He's getting bubbly water.
I think he's making his own bubbly water.
Should I text him?
We'll wait for him to come back. Oh, hang on. Jeff is back. Jeff is back.
Oh, he's back. He made it.
All right. He's been thinking for a long time about exactly what his best attribute is. And we have our answer, but we want you to give yours first.
He'll probably get it.
It is.
I super had to pee, which is why.
We figured it out.
Your best attribute is your bladder.
My sense of humor.
We're not too crazy about that.
No.
Fair enough.
I think you could do a better job. We're going with straight shooter.
Straight shooting.
Okay.
No drama.
Honesty.
I guess that's what it is. Just a good, solid perspective on anything. If you say something is a certain way, I trust that it's that way.
Unless it's a joke.
That's right. Unless you insist that your joke is funny. In that case, it is not. Sean Mills says,
Wait. Should we do one for Serial and when he gets back?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Anna, what do you think of Serial?
You can play board games with them for a little bit.
He's really good at, what was the game called?
Concept.
He's
All right.
great.
We got it.
Very
There we
clear
go.
communicator.
There it is.
No, he's got to remember.
Serial, I mean, little sweetie.
Sweetheart.
Yeah, sweetheart. Right?
Sweetheart.
Number one?
Yeah.
Unless he's listening in that case. He's an SOB. That.
Oh, wait, yeah, I forgot. He's going to probably listen to this.
Right,
This is all
that ruins
ruined.
it.
Sean Mills says, if you could put any character from Chrono Trigger into Smash Brothers, who would you put in and what would their moves be? It's Frog.
Yeah.
And so you got X Striker in there, so you can have like a Chrono cameo.
He's got the most
that
unique
hot Chromio.
move set because your sort of instinct is to be like, oh, a Chrono, but it's like he's just another sword guy. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Last thing you need. Although
Slurp.
Yeah, that'd be good. You could
Grab him with your tongue.
He could be a shadow character for Yoshi. Just
He's
lays
an
the same
alternate
thing.
form.
lays
Yeah.
eggs for some reason.
Right,
Don't
right.
ask too many questions.
Are there any freak choices like Gato from the beginning, like the singing robot thing?
The King, Marl's dad.
Yeah. Oh
Shows up
my
a couple
God.
times. Just one of the, I mean, not to spoil anything, but some of the end bosses get crazy. Just like one of the craziest like end boss form.
Just have Lavos in there as a
Yeah,
playable
just one of
character?
Lavos' weird forms.
Evan McHugh says, hey, do y'all listen to the Game Informer show still? What do you think of Andy as the host? I love this question. This is very simple. Yes, I do actually listen to it every week. I was thinking that I wouldn't. I was thinking like, I think I'm going to be too close to it. Just like the same way that I'd be hesitant to listen every time I go on vacation at Game Informer. It's like, I don't want to listen to another host. It's going to feel so unnatural. But it turns out I like listening to it then, and I like listening to it now. So yeah, I listen to it right away, right when it comes out. And I think Andy's a fun host. I think he's grown a lot, and he's not quite as self-deprecating. Still a little bit, but he doesn't do as much. Like, this show's too long. It's going to be terrible. Again, he still does it a little bit.
You can't fully leave it behind.
Yeah, I'm less emotional about it than I was expecting.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
And judging from your silence,
Well, I was eager to listen to Andy host, but I did find it surprisingly hard.
Oh, really?
Like, and not because of Andy's fault or anything.
Right.
It's just it's hard to be so involved in it. Like where you were like, oh, I am going to be too close to it. Like you felt like you're not. I thought I wasn't going to be, and then found that I was.
Right.
So I check in periodically, but it's not like a regular thing.
Yeah.
So
Sure. Let's see. Phil S says, "What is the last couch co-op game you finished with someone? No online co-op, and you have to have reached the end credits. For me, it was Man of Medan.
Oh.
I think
Yeah,
probably
I guess that would be mine too, actually.
yeah. I play a lot of games with friends, but like even co-op stuff. Like we played through Perfect Dark not too long ago and stuff. But like I think A Way Out, that was just 2018, right? So yeah, probably A Way Out for like all the way through a co-op game.
Well, because I was gonna say Portal 2 with my wife because that was like a big deal. Like we really got
That was the
into that
last
camp.
one you played?
Well, that's what I thought, but then we play so many things just together, but that aren't really co-op. Like we're playing
Right.
through Life is Strange right now. We played through After Party and Man of Medan, but we didn't both have a controller in our hand. So
Right.
like, is that? But if you mean we both
Does
had a
not
controller
count.
in our hand and we were both working together, probably Portal 2.
I played through Piku Niku with my boyfriend, and that was fun. Yeah.
Which one was that again? I don't remember. It's
like-
cutesy, but
yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like a weird physics platforming game, and it just has all these neat little
It's like big giant
variants.
legs.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
It's very clumsy and awkward. It's a funny game.
Okay.
And it just plays on like these big squiggly goofy characters, and it's pretty fun. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, nice.
Mine was Unravel 2.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
And
yeah,
it
I
was,
loved it.
I ended up liking that a lot more than I probably should have because it was
You just
pretty,
like your wife.
It was pretty straightforward as a
You're allowed to like it as much as
as
you
a
like.
platformer. You
Yeah.
know, like it didn't do that much that was different, but I guess the co-op changes it a lot. But my wife doesn't play a lot of video games, and we don't play a lot of video games together. And it was they add enough like helping, like aids where. She didn't have to go through all the hard ones. You just kind of like jump on the other person's back, and it was just a very cute and fun time together.
Sweet. Johnny C says, "Hey fellas, I have 2 comments and a question. First, the mouse game Kyle was thinking of around the PlayStation 4 launch is called Tiny Brains.
That's right. Yes.
From what I remember, it's not great. Did somebody else
Also-
tweet that at you?
No,
or-
I went down the Google rabbit hole and figured it out afterward, and it was really unsatisfying because it was not a launch title.
Tiny Brains.
So don't go back and play that one.
No matter how much you want to. Please look forward to the next deepest dive on Tiny Brains. Taylor Owen says, will Star Citizen release this console generation?
No. I think you can cut off
yes.
this console generation off that.
But they've been
sentence.
so, I mean, maybe it's just, they
And still no.
And maybe still no.
Don't you think that would be a cool move? I know you're kind of attaching yourself to something a little sketchy, but for Sony or Microsoft for their big like software unveiling for next gen to be like, and we have Star Citizen on the console. I could see one of them going for that.
I just don't think it can be a pillar of marketing. I think it would be cool to I don't think it would be part of marketing the new consoles, but it would be on the Star Citizen devs to announce that it's coming to PS4 or Xbox or whatever. Like Sony and
could see
Microsoft aren't going to grab onto that and
because
be proud of that.
because it's too
It's just
fabled.
It's just like an unknowable. Like it's just like what is that game at this point?
Well, there's a single player campaign with every celebrity known to man in it. They recorded
Yeah.
Mark Hamill's bit back in 2015 or whatever the hell. Arthur says, all aboard. Hello, conductor Ben and the MinnMax crew. Thank you, Arthur. I love... Sorry, the internet's funny. I love when trains are in my games. They're a unique and dynamic setting with a clear structure that keeps you moving forward, and they can turn what is technically a long corridor into a memorable experience. If I see a train in my game... Hang on. If I see a train in my game, I know that the next station will be good times.
That's very good.
What are your favorite trains in games?
Okay, so I have a really strong feeling about this.
Okay.
Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks.
Okay.
And both my favorite and my least favorite train are in that game.
Are there multiple trains, or are you just saying it's such a pain in the ass?
There's like this ghost train that's like purple and it chomps the tracks and it chases you.
Okay.
And it's scary.
It's kind of it's almost like a Pac-Man.
Yeah,
right?
it really
Kinda,
stresses you out. It's constantly looming.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it made for a really engrossing gameplay experience, but also it was terrifying.
And then the good train is just like the main train.
Yeah, it's just like the main train. Like you can
Yeah.
pull when you're commuting, you can pull the
whistle.
you can send the whistle off, and like there's nothing better than riding a train across Hyrule and going toot toot.
100%. And like,
I would
Your
argue riding a
train.
horse across Hyrule might be a little more fun,
Okay,
but that's a whole separate thing.
honestly, I will go to bat for this train.
Really? Spirit Tracks?
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, okay, so much better than Phantom Hourglass.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I'll agree with you
In
there.
mine,
yeah.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The I loved the whistle, and I always loved timing it with the overworld theme because like Spirit Tracks. Say what you will
Yeah.
about the game, the overworld theme, one of the best Zelda songs
Yes.
ever written.
Yeah, I like that. It's a
Yeah.
weak Zelda game, but a good. There's still a lot to like about that.
Oh,
game.
for sure. But then I would always time the whistle where it's like da-dun, 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 and then go woo woo, and like, I had this whole rhythm timed out. So every time I heard that part of the song, I had to do that stupid whistle.
Even in the middle of combat, you're like, oh, let's put
Get
away the
back to the
cannon.
train. Get back to the train. Yeah, it is good. It is a good video game concept. I guess that's a good point. Like it's very clear level design. Keep moving up. Like Sunset Riders has a great train.
Yeah.
The Toy Story 3 video game has a great train. Obviously.
Shadows of the Empire,
Ooh, there we go. Yeah.
which started as a train game before it shifted into a Star Wars game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was going to be like a Western kind of deal.
There's
Uncharted.
Uncharted 2 is the
yeah.
go-to example. More recently, though, doesn't get enough love maybe because it's spoiler-ish, but there's a train at the end of Lost Legacy, which they basically go for that same trick again, which is really cool. Because I remember talking to Naughty Dog when I'd visit them for 3 different cover stories. They would always talk about like their favorite thing that they've done. A lot of them would say the train level from Uncharted 2. Remember, like Josh Scherr, specifically
That's
the
why
writer.
they decided to put it at the front of the game.
Yeah.
The in media res kind of like, well, we got to show this off.
Well, yeah. Well, that was like the train falling is like where it starts and stuff. But yeah. But yeah, so it's interesting that like, oh, we loved it so much we just did it again for Lost Legacy at the end there. But still, it's cool. Yeah.
There's a cool train boss in Star Fox 64.
Oh,
so it's
yeah,
fun to
there
make
we go.
crash.
Red Dead 2. I actually got to the train part.
Oh, nice.
Where you
Oh, you playing it?
No,
Oh.
that was before. But there's a duel on top of a train.
Jeff, I'm going to New Orleans has me craving Red Dead 2 so badly again. I just want to walk through that town. So I want you to come over here so that I can play Red Dead 2 with you.
Not gonna.
The narrative,
I gotta get back to that. At some
the
point.
narrative
I did
here
get,
on
I
it
did get to that city.
is Jeffem says
the
Red Dead
swamp.
Redemption 2 is like one of his favorite games of all time.
Well, I didn't put it on the list because of that. Because
He hasn't finished it, and we
yeah.
like to give him crap for it.
Oh, okay. But how many hours have you played?
I probably like 40, but
Yeah.
I just didn't
Yeah.
do the
Seems like fair
the
enough.
story.
time.
You can weigh in and say it's great, but you need to take it that as you can say that it's great, you also need to take crap
It's also like
from us
We're
saying
trying
that
to
you
help
don't know
you.
the full saga.
I know
Because
I
it
know.
gets better.
I know.
Yeah.
It gets better and better.
I gotta
You
get
won't.
back to it.
You will never do it.
Prove him wrong.
I gotta make time. We should just do it as a deepest dive.
No, because we already all played it, Jeffem. Like not that long ago.
We can replay games. You played Chrono Trigger. What are you talking about?
20 years ago.
All right, in 20 years, I'll finish it.
All right, Thomas Hoster says, "Hey, MinnMax, I thought of a game for you. What is the jump button on these random games? What is the jump button on Grand Theft Auto 4 for the 360?"
Circle or B?
It's
Oh,
on-
wait, 360? you
Yes.
said? Okay,
Yeah.
B.
It is B, correct.
go.
What is the jump button for Breath of the Wild on the Nintendo Switch?
The northern button.
Which is?
Y
X.
X.
Yeah.
It is X,
Yeah.
yes. Halo Combat Evolved on the Xbox.
That was
Hey,
A.
There we go. Dragon Ball Fighters for PS4.
Up on the D-pad?
Correct. Up on the D-pad. Skyrim for the Xbox One.
Why?
Yes.
Hey.
Way to go. Pretty good, everybody. Wow. Bonus question, Arma 3 on the PC.
Space bar?
Trick question, no jump button, just a step over button. Step
Fair enough.
over button? What is that? Thank you, Thomas. Good game. Good game. Hey, I haven't said this in a while. What do y'all like for question of the week? I am 8-bit question of the week.
I forgot about this.
Yeah.
Can you read them all again?
Now I remember why I got away from this.
I know. It's been a while.
I like the going dark, depression, anxiety question.
Mm-hmm.
I like the hardest these people have made you laugh. I like overlooked game that are lost through time. And I like making Jeff leave the room. But I'm wide open.
What was there was the second or third question I remember liking when I still had remembered in my head that we were going to.
This is not helpful.
No, okay, never mind then. We'll get better. We'll get better about this. I promise.
Was it why is WarCraft 3 Reforged being a stale part?
No, it was not that one. Though I did like that one.
What do y'all like? Jeffem?
I like Lost Game. I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anna, do you have thoughts on this?
I mean, I'm late to the train on this one.
All aboard.
I like
the train one.
I like the train one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
And the quiz was fun too.
Yeah, quiz is always fun.
Yeah,
It's hard.
quiz
It's
is
hard to
always
not
fun.
always
It came
give
at
it
the
to
end,
like
you know?
a quiz or a game.
Yeah. I like in terms of making the show better. That's what we're looking for, right?
Yeah.
I do like the idea of making Jeffem leave the room.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So mean.
You're a jackass.
Yeah,
How's that
that's
for
right.
straight shooter?
No, but it's also a positive thing, right? It's got it all.
Yeah,
It's dynamic.
All right, let's do it.
let's do
Can we
it.
live with it? Yeah. All right, Canadian, congratulations.
Congrats.
The first winner of the I Am 8-Bit question of the week.
You are 8-bit,
Yes,
even though you have a numerical 1 in your name.
That is true. So I'm 8-Bit. We'll ship that out to you. That is the Mega Man X cartridge. What a sweet gift. And be sure to thank I'm 8-Bit on social media. Everybody. It's so sweet that they're supporting MinnMax in this way.
Yeah.
And that they're bringing back question of the week and actually shipping out these items, including, for the first time ever, even if you're overseas.
All right.
Which they seem cool with. And so I am very happy to say we will ship around the world. I Am 8-Bit will ship around the world if it happens to land that way. But thank you so much, Canadian. I'll reach out and get your contact info for all that fun stuff. And now, I think it's time for Get a Load of This. Beautiful jingle.
I'm
Jeff
not
Marchiafava.
gonna do the jingle that I didn't know was in there.
All right. Anna, we won't make you go first.
Okay.
But Jeffem, for Get a Load of This, what do you got this week?
Hey, get a load of this.
Yeah!
You know how last week we looked at what every state's least favorite state was?
Yes.
Well, it turns out that guy, Matt Shirley, also did a map of every state's favorite other state. So it's which state
Okay.
each state likes the most.
Yes.
Based on the 300,000 people or whatever he polled unscientifically.
Yeah.
But this one, kind of interesting. Some of them flip. So some of them are the favorite and least favorite and most hated list.
Okay.
But highlights include California and Alaska both love Hawaii for some reason, as Hawaii though likes Nevada the most.
All right.
Everyone around Florida seems to also like Florida for some reason.
Oh, weird.
That's
Florida
they all
hates
go
it.
to
Florida
Florida.
energy.
Does that hold up?
Florida likes North Carolina the most, though.
Epic's there.
Fair enough. Let's see. The problem is they don't list the states. Like, I have to go by outline of the state. Everyone around Colorado likes Colorado. Wait, is that right? No, everyone around Utah likes Utah.
Okay.
Fair enough. But the reason I brought this up, and it's very shameless, is North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Wisconsin all like Minnesota the best.
Yeah.
No one particularly likes any of those states in return. But Minnesota, the state that Minnesota likes the most is Canada.
Yeah.
Apparently, we all just said states. Screw states. We're going north, which is
love
why
'em.
it's time for Minnesota to secede from the United States of America
And this is the
join
ultimate
Canada.
goal of MinnMax,
Yes.
to start the revolution, to get us over there to Canada.
Get a load of that.
Love it. Anna, did you have one?
So
Are you scrolling through Twitter
yeah,
furiously
I am.
right now?
Right.
You can, you know, like ordering at a restaurant. Like, you can go last if you
Yes.
want, right?
Yes, that's right.
But mine's very quick, so hurry up.
Okay.
So this is a tweet from someone named Joe Glass, at Joseph Glass. And it just, as a fan of animated films and watching a lot of animated films, I just thought it was really weird. And I hadn't noticed this. Tom Holland, the actor that plays Spider-Man, he plays a character in the Spies in Disguise movie with Will Smith, and he also plays a character in the upcoming Pixar movie. Gosh, what is that movie called? You know what I'm talking about, Hanson, right?
Onward.
Onward. And so he plays characters in both of those movies, and they look basically identical. They look exactly the same.
It's like the weird big nose, but it doesn't look like Tom Holland necessarily.
No, that's like the weird angle of it. Is like it doesn't really look like Tom Holland, but his character that they created, which I'm assuming they designed before they cast him, looks basically identical.
And not flattering either. If it is based on him.
Yeah,
that's not great.
That's a weird thing.
That
Get a
is
load
weird.
of that.
I will get a load of that. That's nice. Hey, get a load of this. When I was in New Orleans, I went to the World War II museum that they have down there. It's like the world's best World War II museum, and it is incredible. My favorite thing is they have like a separate building where they just pack it full of planes. So it's like this huge hangar. It's like, all right, we just got a huge bomber up top. We got sweet P-51 Mustang flying in over here. It's just sweet to look at. But they had a whole area focused just on D-Day, which was fascinating, obviously. And there's one section that I don't think I really knew too much about, but the fact that they were putting and trying to seed so many other options and like use intelligence to try and trick the Germans into thinking that everybody was going to be landing on a different beach, like the most obvious connection here, all this stuff like that. But then they were so crafty. Not only were they like seeding false information out there about where they were going to land for the beachhead, but then also because they would go to the point and land in England that was the closest to that alternate beachhead, and they would build up like fake bases there as if that was the base where everything was rallying to then cross the channel. So it basically, they hired like Hollywood producers and people from the film industry to make fake towns, kind of like Blazing Saddles, to make it look from the sky at least that this was like a full operation, including inflatable trucks, like full Metal Gear Solid 5
Where are those
shenanigans.
now?
I don't know. Yeah, I wonder if they still exist, but they have pictures of these inflatable trucks that they would just inflate and then put her on the base so that German planes and spies would think, this is actually the full operation here.
Was that literally a Metal Gear thing?
Well, there's like inflatable snakes in 5, but I forget if you could do a truck.
Because I was like, I would just believe that was just made up Kojima nonsense. Like if that was like if Snake could throw down an inflatable truck in Metal Gear Solid 5, but it's like, I guess there's some historical relevancy to that. That's weird.
For being real tricky. There
Interesting.
It is. Yeah,
I got a load
everybody.
of that.
Yeah, thank you. Anna?
All right. Get a load of this.
Yeah.
It's official.
This is actually something I just remembered, so I didn't even find it from scrolling through Twitter.
Perfect.
So on TikTok, the Mario Kart app is like seeing a huge resurgence, and so I spent like 30 minutes watching like Mario Kart mobile tutorials and like content on TikTok.
What? Why?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Mario Kart game, like TikTok is all of a sudden like obsessed with it now?
Yeah. So it's been like a slow burn, but I had been seeing like a lot of like tutorial videos, but then also just like comedy videos. It's really, the game is kind of wonky, and so they also make jokes about that are really popular, and it's all just like, it's like blowing up.
What a weird thing to get a resurgence.
Hotbed,
Yeah. I played that game a lot because I reviewed it.
I have a question. I know I should know this, but I don't really understand what TikTok is.
Okay.
It's I see ads for it, and it's just some looping thing of somebody making silly sounds.
Yeah. So, okay. I mean, do you know what Vine is?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
Do you know what Byte is?
Yeah, that's where I download my memes. Yeah, I got it.
Oh, there's like hundreds of Reggie Fils-Aimé.
That's where he goes. On the place with the memes. So basically it's based on sounds, and it used to be called Musical.ly, where people would they would lip sync to popular songs, but then it got rebranded as TikTok, and it goes viral based on sound. So like there are popular sounds. So like a lot of Nintendo games are really popular on TikTok because they have ridiculous sounds in them that kids then riff off of, and they'll sort of do like acting to it. So
what goes viral based on sounds? I don't know what that means.
Well, so I mean, it's basically like Vine, except there's a more emphasis on sounds.
Okay.
Yeah, you can like integrate your own song, like it's built into the app. Like I want to use this song and this sound effect and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you can edit videos in the app. and add popular sounds to your video. So let's see here. Like, it's also a lot of old songs are coming back because of it, because like kids will make jokes about it.
Okay.
Yeah, using it. So
Would I enjoy it if I downloaded TikTok and
let me send you like a curated list of
Please.
TikToks.
Okay.
Because you have to like sift through a lot of stuff sometimes, and the algorithm is kind of scary good. So if you use it enough, it'll kind of like get trained, and it'll know what you like and
you'll
don't
know that
like.
I'm obsessed with Mario Kart Tour.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, if you follow like 3 Mario Kart accounts, you'll get like a ton of Mario
Okay.
Kart.
Oh, good.
videos.
All right.
Yeah.
So, do you use Byte at all? Because like
No.
I was like, because that is the genuine official successor to Vine.
Okay.
And it's like they do weird things
oh,
like
it just launched, didn't it?
like
Yeah.
you can't see your follower count
Yeah.
and stuff like that, which I think
Ooh,
is
that's really cool.
interesting. And I enjoyed
Yeah.
Vine a lot.
Yeah.
So like I'm excited for Byte, but I thought maybe TikTok would fill that Vine void in my
Yeah.
life, but it's like it's I don't know, it's not the same, man. It's different.
You know,
It's
there
weird.
were multiple periods where I downloaded TikTok and then like pretty much immediately deleted it.
Yeah.
But then I don't know, just one time like
You can only
broke
watch
through that
teens
wall.
lip syncing to "Hey Look, Mom, I Made
Yeah.
It" like so much.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty good. Thank you for being our youth correspondent.
Now we all know what TikTok is.
I
We can
didn't
talk to our nephews.
People are
and-
going to
Yeah.
be like, what?
Yeah.
Because of an explanation. Yeah.
TikTok to your kids.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Hey, that's an episode of the MinnMax Show. Anna, thank you for joining
Yeah,
us.
thanks for
thank you.
having
Excellent
me.
job. Thank you. You're welcome
You did
back
it.
at any point. Do you have a Twitter handle you want to
Yeah.
plug?
Anna likes Pikachu.
That's perfect. That wasn't taken?
Right. It's nice. And it's Anna with one N.
No.
Ooh,
Not
we
two.
actually don't really approve
don't
of that
do
around
that
here. We're not
here.
familiar with the concept of
Yeah.
just one N. That's very sweet. Anything else you want to plug, glitch-wise or anything?
Nope. Yeah. I mean, just if you follow me on Twitter, you'll keep up to date. I'm really excited for what we're working on. And if you like games, then I hope you'll be excited too.
There we go. Pretty broad, but it sounds great. Cool. Thanks so much. And thanks for watching and listening. We will be doing, there'll be maybe 1 or 2 bonus videos going live on YouTube this week, and then MinnFax coming up on Monday. And next week, I think, will be a big fun one as well. So thanks for watching, everybody, or listening. Be good, have fun. Let's go.